St. Vincent and
Well, you walk.
when you walk into the NDP storm,
Hold your
hold
head
your head up high.
up high. And
Don't be afraid of the dark that they have generated. Believe in lightness, providing light.
At the end of
At
a
the end of the storm,
there's a
there's a golden sky
and the
with
sweet
the ULP.
sea of a soul, of a love.
Oh yes.
Walk
Walk on.
to the wind. Walk
on to the rain.
to the rain. Through your dreams, be toast.
Through your dreams, may be tossed. Keep them up.
Walk
on.
with hope in your heart, and you'll
never keep it fresh. Be in solidarity with one another. Love and caring. Among all people, of all classes, of all statuses, of all positions, of all color and creed. Harmony in the world. Solidarity. Love. Faith. And hope. Fresh hope. My brothers and sisters
when you
in the Caribbean,
to a storm,
in North America, in Latin America,
up high,
in Africa,
be afraid,
in Asia, in Europe. Solidarity with those who are suffering from bombardments in the Middle East.
Over storm, there's a golden sky.
The ULP is for peace and love and harmony and progress. Sustained progress, sustained development, shared prosperity. Above all, love.
Walk on to dream, through your dreams, be toast.
Keep your dreams,
and blind.
Even though the NDP tried to tear them up and toss them all about.
Walk on, you'll hope.
Fresh hope in your heart.
In your heart.
And you will never walk alone. Labor will be with you. And Comrade is here. All the comrades are here.
You never walk alone. Walk on, with hope. Eternal hurt, and your name, but won't alone.
You will never walk alone. That's a promise.
Never walk alone.
Oh, yeah. Never, 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 never. We're here with you. Good morning. It is 11 minutes after 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning, hump day, middle of the week. It is Wednesday, July 22nd. Good morning. I'm the Candy Man, and here with the Honorable Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, the Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, and he is fresh from battle. yesterday in the House of Assembly, there's a little bit of a showdown. He had to do some schooling as usual. You know how that goes. We'll get an update on that. We'll, of course, discuss many issues, as many as we can, that are affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some local, some regional, and some international. And we'll discuss other matters as well. Good morning to you, Dr. Gonsalves.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Candyman again. Well, as usual, we begin with some preliminaries before we get to some of the issues. I want to begin with a somber note. A cousin of mine, a first cousin of mine, Sharon Francis, Julian Francis's sister. She died a couple of days ago, and she was a wonderful woman.
Mm-hmm, she was.
You know, kind and generous and Christian and graceful and law-abiding, a fantastic mother, a professional in the field of hospitality and tourism.
Mm-hmm.
She ran her own small hotel and restaurant, and then she taught at the community college in these particular areas, culinary arts and tourism management, and she got a stroke. In fact, I saw her the week before she got a stroke. I was by the hotel where she was the manager, Holiday Inn Express, and she looked so sprightly and everything. But the Lord give it and the Lord take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I just want to give condolences publicly to all the family and friends, of course, her children, you know, and Becky, who has been a tower of strength with her. I want to thank the nurses, those who have provided the support services for her, everybody, the doctors, and from here into Barbados and back. Sharon would be laid to rest sometime later this month. And a number of the family members coming home. It's a sad occasion for the family.
Yeah, well, I myself would like to express my condolences as well to the entire family, especially Comrade Julian and our immediate family. She's a very, very wonderful lady, you know. She's pleasant, always pleasant. All my interactions with her were beautiful, you know, and she's kind, as you said. And to students, all the people, all the lives that she impacted, you know, people echo the same sentiments. So beautiful soul that's lost to us on this earthly plane, but I'm sure heaven is rejoicing in receiving her.
Yesterday in the house, we paid tribute to a great Caribbean man, Sir Garfield Sobers. And I don't need to rehash that yesterday, except to say there were 3 speeches, one by Friday, one by Shallow, and one by yours truly, Comrade Ralph. And last night, I was invited by Mason from Barbados now. Mason the Great, as I call him.
Mm-hmm.
Major sports personality, broadcasting personality. Mason and guest. It focused on Sir Garfield, his life, work, and impact. And, you know, on the program, there were outstanding regional and global personalities. P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Sir Hilary Beckles, Vice Chancellor and the University of the West Indies and author of several cricket books. Lawrence Rowe, former Test cricketer. Bishan Bedi from India, spinner. Keith Mitchell, Prime Minister Keith Mitchell, former Prime Minister of Grenada. Rihanna called in. She gave a beautiful tribute. She herself is a national hero of Barbados, the only living one now. And then there was Mike King, who is a distinguished journalist in Barbados, and former DLP leader, lawyer Ralph Thorne, a former student of mine. He's a King's Counsel in Barbados. And we had a very good program. I stayed with the program from 7 until after it concluded by 8 o'clock, just after 8 o'clock. Announcement next week, the election petition cases begin in earnest. I've received a report on the status and related issues from Carlos James, Senator Carlos James, who in his capacity as a lawyer is part of the legal team, and lead counsel Stuart Young, senior counsel from Trinidad and Tobago, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Next week, we're going to have the cross-examination of all the witnesses, the experts, including the Canadian experts on citizenship law and the like. And then in November, there would be the formal presentation of the legal arguments. They have to put their submissions in sometime in writing in September. And then the court has allocated time in November. I would wish if it had been moving along faster, but hopefully by the end of the year we will hear the judgment of the court. The senior judges here in the matter, former member of the Court of Appeal Justice Gertel Thorm, now on contract as a High Court judge and doing special work here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She's an experienced jurist. And on Saturday, this weekend, at 10 o'clock from Sion Hill, there begins a motorcade organized by the SVG, Cuba Friendship Society. Mm-hmm. As many persons as have the 10 o'clock. You start at Sion Hill and they would do a few laps around town waving the Cuban flag. I've been advised. I don't know if they're going to have any mounted public address systems on vehicles. For anybody saying anything, I don't know about that part. But I urge everybody who can be involved, make the time to be involved. And
that's this Saturday at 10.
At 10.
From Sion Hill.
At Sion Hill, and then into Kingstown and around Kingstown. Cuba is under a lot of pressure. Last week we spoke about it. I was on a program on Sunday the 19th with Dr. Bob, who hosted that program, the Bob Report out of Grenada, with distinguished other discussants, panelists on that program, which went on for about an hour and a half. I want to reiterate that we all have to provide great support and solidarity to Cuba. And I made a suggestion then, and we have to do some work
We need to have a global conference, a global solidarity event for Cuba.
I agree with that.
And we in the Caribbean, we have to work with our brothers and sisters in other parts of Latin America and Europe and North America and Africa to get this going. We are doing things in our own separate areas, which is very important, Candyman. Europeans are doing things. For instance, I know a number of individuals, including former leader of the opposition in the UK, Jeremy Corbyn. There's a group in which he's involved, and other important personalities in the United Kingdom and Europe doing work. Some people in North America, like Dr. Ron Daniel, Professor Frank Gurley, Shikaya Thomas in Canada with his group. There are other organizations all about. The Cuba Friendship Society, the Grenada Cuba Friendship Society is doing very good work in Grenada. Others doing work, and we all doing work in our own spaces. But I think this movement we need to internationalize it, and we need to get it. We need to get this going in this day and age with the appropriate telecommunications. It can be done, and maybe the Cuba Friendship Societies together with other individuals and some governments, some other organizations, we can all do this.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to put pressure on the United States of America to restrain them from this adventure on which they seem bent on embarking to invade Cuba and effect regime change, Trump and Marco Rubio. And then to raise the issue that we have a mature conversation between the United States of America and Cuba, and go back to the Obama Raul Castro initiative of December 2014. The hopefulness of that opening was dashed in the first term with Trump, succeeded Obama, and then President Biden didn't.
He left it as is.
Yes, didn't do anything. In fact, in some respects, he tightened the screws a little bit more. And then Trump, second time in the second iteration, is at the moment embarked on a campaign to starve Cuba into submission. It is cruel, it is inhumane, it is wicked, it is illegal. The United States of America, it's a country where at its very soul it is conflicting. On the one hand is the land of hope, glory, promise, freedom and democracy. Beacon of light, the shining city on the hill. All the metaphors which are used there, that's one part of it. And the other part has been native genocide, the enslavement of African bodies, terrible treatment of migrants who are black or brown, where there's a question in a large part of the United States of America to have it become a white republic, or to look forward to a past. They imagine that it was a pristine white republic at one time. It never was. But they want to return to an illusion. And therefore, they're bound to be disillusioned. And it is ending in grief, and it will end in grief. But the rest of us can't just stand by.
Yeah, we can't ignore the irony of the situation. The United States has gone to war with other countries and has sanctioned other countries for doing to Cuba, for doing to other people exactly what the U.S. is doing to Cuba.
Yes.
So, the international community really has to stand up for Cuba, because Cuba has stood up for the international community all the
incredibly
time.
Incredibly so.
Yeah.
And our African brothers must remember, and sisters must remember, that when in the 70s, the independence of Angola was seriously threatened, and the racist regime in South Africa, supported by the United States of America and some European governments, in conjunction with some local revanchists led by Joseph Savimbi in Angola, that Angola went at the invitation of the MPLA, the Movement for Liberation for Angola, led by Agostinho Neto, and at the famous Battle of Cuito Valley, the Cubans and Angolans, the armed forces of the MPLA, defeated the racist regime. And when the body bags started to go back of white working class and middle class boys, that the racist regime there begin from that external adventure, plus what the African National Congress was doing internally and other liberation fighters, the regime started to crumble. And Nelson Mandela said it's the Battle of Cuito Valley, which assisted with immediacy to opening his cell doors, where he was imprisoned for 28 years.
I remember Nelson Mandela famously said to a well-known American media journalist.
Yes.
He was conducting an interview, and journalists asked him, well, why would you associate yourself with people like Fidel Castro? He's a dictator, and so on and so forth.
And Muammar Gaddafi.
Yes. And Mandela said, why would you ask me such a question? He said, where were you and your media and your government when my people were being ostracized and were victims of the apartheid regime? We didn't see you. In fact, you supported the regime. And the Cubans reached out to us. The Cubans helped us. The Cubans defended us. Why, now that we have our freedom, would you want us to abandon our friends?
Absolutely.
I think he said something like, if it weren't for the Cubans, I wouldn't be here having this conversation with
Absolutely.
you.
But I'll tell you a fact. Not as is said tongue-in-cheek these days by the millennials, a fun fact. This is not a fun fact which I'm about to tell you. After Nelson Mandela was elected as president of South Africa, he had to get a special dispensation to visit the United States of America, because the organization which he led, the African National Congress, was still on the law books
As a terrorist
organization.
Yes, I remember that.
Huh?
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell you, there is in the soul, the deep soul of the United States of America,
It's conflicted.
there is this divide.
Yeah.
There is this tremendous conflict and contradictions which lead to their hypocrisy. And now there has been, for some recent times an ascendancy in the country of those who would want to turn the United States of America into their version of a white republic. It's a matter which is causing the people of the United States of America a lot of pain and suffering, the bulk of Americans. And of course, we in the world, we are suffering tremendously from that particular delusional quest,
At the same
which
time,
would lead
though,
to disillusionment.
at the same time, I would note that within recent years, maybe I'd say the last 4 to 5 years, there's been a sort of awakening in the United States of America.
Oh, yes.
And there's an ideological war taking place at the
Yes.
moment. And the divide has never been so,
Sharp.
yeah, I think this is going to play out over the next few years, and we'll
Yes.
see where it goes.
Yes.
But even in things like war, the United States used to go to war and the whole country would be united, coalesce around the government. It's the first time I've seen in my lifetime that the U.S. has gone to war, and the country from the get-go was not in favor. And
Yes.
so
The war against Iran.
Iran, yeah. And the way this is playing out, I'm wondering if the country would fall in line with the government in its actions on Cuba. We'll see.
Well, there's a big problem both for the Republicans and the Democrats. It's a thing called presidential politics of South Florida. In addition to other issues connected to imperialism, the actual concentration of anti-Castro, anti-revolutionary Cuba personalities in South Florida. Of course, that community is also divided, but the majority are really anti-Castro, people who had migrated, like some who had lost property through the revolution, or position or status, their children. And both the Republican and the Democratic Party seek to exploit this. But the rest of us can't conduct our foreign policy on the basis of presidential politics of South Florida. So on Saturday, with some immediacy, we need to show solidarity with Cuba and hope that this impacts on CARICOM governments to do more than they're doing, and with greater urgency than they're moving.
Agreed.
Including the government in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yesterday, as you indicated, there was a House of Assembly meeting. And there were 4 bills which were passed yesterday. 3 of them connected to one main issue. The principal bill was what is called the daily paid and minor salaried officers compassionate gratuity bill. And Leacock on Friday, when they spoke, and the Andrew John, who is becoming quite a demagogue, they sought to present this as though it's a well, Leacock was clear that it is, for him, one of the most important bills ever to come to Parliament. And was hailing it in revolutionary terms. The hyperbole was just amazing. Trumpian. It's the greatest.
It's the best est.
I mean, it's, when in fact...
How long has Leacock been in Parliament?
He has been in Parliament
Since the early 2000s.
Since the early part of the 21st century.
Wow.
And
this one is the most important.
yeah, well, one of the most important. Even from when he's followed before.
Yeah.
No. The bill was improved upon markedly by the Select Committee, in which Carlos James and Kisal Peters participated as the two representatives from the opposition at the Select Committee. And the trade unionists and so forth, they all added and improved upon the bill. But as I pointed out, let's just tone down the hoopla and the hyperbole. Let us don't do the lambada metaphorically in the nude by just getting overexcited. This bill had, as I outlined, two features. It codified the existing practice of providing compassionate gratuity to non-pensionable persons.
This practice was carried on through your government.
In fact, we met a practice and we extended it. And I'll tell you how we extended it. And it had become routine. You're non-pensionable, you reach retirement age, which is 60. You want to go, you get your you get your benefits, a compassionate gratuity computed on the basis of 2 weeks pay for each year work up to the maximum of 26 years. So you get a 1 year's golden handshake. 2 weeks pay for each of the 26 years, which was the original formula for severance. Though severance is different from gratuity, but the formula in the 1980 Protection of Employment Act, which had put a flat 2 weeks for each year worked in respect of severance. So that what was in the Protection of Employment Act was used as a proxy, though this compassionate gratuity is not the same thing as severance, because severance is if you're dismissed unlawfully. No.
I heard you had to go through great pains to explain.
I had to go through some pains to explain that.
Some members of the House didn't comprehend.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, Dr. Gonsalves, just for clarity, who exactly does this bill benefit? Who is it about?
They benefit non-pensionable workers in the government service.
Mm-hmm.
And
for example, there will be some categories like.
I can read some of the categories for you.
Mm-hmm.
These are persons who are, as I say,
they're not eligible for pension.
They're not eligible. They're not eligible. They're not what you call workers on the establishment for pensions. They don't have a security. They don't have security of tenure. And these would be like apprentice binders, apprentice maintenance technician, a boatman, book attendant, driver, a chainman, a dental assistant, a custom guard, a female attendant, a traffic warden, a vault attendant, a nursing auxiliary, caretaker, watchman, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And we have some categories in agriculture as well, and so on. So I just wanted to give listeners an idea of what groups of workers we're talking about here.
And what happened? What we did, and this thing was routine. We didn't bring a bill on it. we just did it routine, administratively. A person would reach retirement, reach 60 years of age. The permanent secretary says, well, this person has reached retirement. There's a question of compassionate gratuity. It wasn't selective, everybody. And the permanent secretary will give the memo to the minister, who will sign it, bring it to cabinet, and they have the salary, they have the length of time the person worked, how much they worked for, and they did the computation on the basis of the formula of 2 weeks' pay for each year worked. And it would be done, and the only caveat you will have was to ask the Ministry of Finance to double-check the numbers, because occasionally the person in the ministry may make an error.
Yeah, human error. That's fine.
So you just double-check it for the purpose of payment, and that was it.
Did the law change any of this?
The law hasn't changed that.
No.
The law hasn't.
So you just made it law.
Yes, the law.
The existing practice has been made law.
Just made law. You only know. You don't have to bring it to the cabinet, but you apply for it still. So, and then when the NIS provision changed, that you go from 60 to 61 to 62. Remember when we began the reforms in 2014, and that up to 2028, we'll carry the retirement age to 65 to 2028. Well, sorry, we'll carry the age to get full pension, full NIS pension up to 65. You can get it at 60, you know, but you get a diminution because you pay less. So you lose some
on the years that you
on the years, because if you get in it at 65, but you don't go to 65, you would not have contributed to 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. But what happened? A lot of persons wanted to continue. So they will just simply write and say they'd like to continue. And they're all extended on an annual basis. So it doesn't change any of that practically. It just continues. All you do now, you have that in a bill. But I said, so that's codifying existing practice, Candyman. But there are a couple of things in the bill which are a retrogression from the existing practice. And I say, once we codify, we must codify the best practice and look to see how we can extend the best practice. So, we used to give persons, if they work and retire and only serve 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to serve a minimum of 7 years. So that's one area in which it's not as good as the practice that we have had. And secondly, there is a section in the bill which I asked them to excise, which is very, very troubling. And this is what it reads. Where it is established, clause 9.2, where it is established to the satisfaction of the minister that an eligible officer has been guilty of negligence, irregularity or misconduct, the compassionate gratuity may be reduced or altogether withheld.
Who makes that determination?
The minister, to the satisfaction of the minister.
So under this new law, the minister gets to decide.
The minister can actually take away.
Yeah.
your compassionate gratuity. And I made the point. I said, this is something which is imported from the Pension Act for public servants. I said this law which we bring here is of its own special kind. I used the expression and then explained, I said, it is jurisprudentially of its own special kind. As the lawyers would say, sui generis, of its own kind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't import wholesale provisions from elsewhere unless it improves the bill itself. But this one draws away from the existing practice. It is true that it's not an absolute right. But can the man, in the case of a particular a non-pensionable worker in the public service, the permanent secretary can simply write them a letter and fire them if they're guilty of any misconduct, negligence, whatever, and that could be contested in the court. That could be contested at the Labor Department.
So when the minister, does the law provide?
The minister now, as I gave the example, I said, a worker may say, the ignorant minister you have, and I wasn't referring to Leacock, I made it plain, because I wasn't personalizing it in that way, because
It could be any minister.
it's a government of laws,
Yeah.
not of men.
Yeah.
That a worker, a non-pensionable worker says, he's an ignorant minister, you don't know what you're doing. And that minister could well say, well, you will get your compassionate gratuity when I'm no longer ignorant. It's like once a story in Guyana where an activist during the Bonham time had made a terrible slur against Ptolemy Reed, the then Minister of National Security, Defense, Home Affairs Minister, as he was called then, Dr. Reed, and curse him stink on the platform, and he ugly, and he said things which the state felt, particularly at a time of tensions, and there was an emergency that he should be detained. So when Dr. Reed went to visit the compound where they were detained, this particular fellow shouted at Ptolemy Reed, "Ptolemy, when are you going to free me?" Ptolemy turned to him and told him, I was advised. Ptolemy said, "I'll go free you when I get better looking, when I get good looking, because, in other words, you cost me like this." So you can, but the difference between a pensionable and non-pensionable person is that a pensionable person, to get rid of a pensionable person from the public service, is a very involved and complicated process, not easy at all. They have security of tenure to go through certain layers. In the case of a non-pensionable person, you give them notice, usually a month's notice, or give them 1 month's salary in lieu of notice, and get rid of them. That's the ease with which, of course, you can contest that in the courts, that it was not done fairly and all the rest of it. But why would you want to put a provision like that in the hands of a minister, or even put a provision like that in the hands of anybody? Because if a non-pensionable person is behaving with negligence and misconduct, you would
The PS would deal with it.
the PS would have dealt with that already.
And if the PS so moves, the person is dismissed. They don't get
Well,
gratuity. Do they get it?
They no, but you
Are
could
they entitled to
they
it?
could go they could
They
go
can
to
contest
court.
it, of course.
They could go to court and they can say that they have not been fairly
Yeah.
dismissed.
Yeah, but
You know, wrongful
before they go to
dismissal.
court, if you're dismissed,
Yeah.
if the PS dismisses
No,
you're
wouldn't
not
get-
entitled.
You wouldn't get it. So that
So then that provision is redundant.
But that's the point I was making. That's the point I was making. But he just wants to have himself empowered to determine this. And Friday, in response to me, very obtusely said the presence of that provision will strengthen the likelihood of nobody losing their gratuity because they will behave. I mean, I've never heard anything more illogical and obtuse in all my life. You're right to
He
laugh.
said that?
Yeah,
I
he said that.
didn't hear that
Yeah,
part.
he said that.
We got cut that out. That's the Prime Minister talking?
Yeah. It's just pure. Just
People
pure.
will behave because they're afraid of the minister.
Yeah.
The minister could take away their...
Yeah.
Well, what does he imply? What is he implying by behave? What does it mean?
Well, what is here
He
now?
told the line politically.
Negligence, irregularity, misconduct.
No, it
And then
can't be.
Friday then proceeds. The second limb of his defense was that, well, he doesn't know of any minister who will do a thing like that, like what I said. Because ministers of the crown, ministers of the government, the cabinet, a high position, people will not act like that.
Oh, they're saints.
Yeah. But that's if you have a government of men. But you have to have a government of laws. And Carlos was arguing, and Carlos argued before the select committee, that look, if you're going to have this provision, you have to put an appeals
Process
in place.
So there's none.
There's none. So you could put an administrative appeals process in place, a tribunal of some kind, so you don't have to, like under the Protection of Employment Act.
For balance.
But Friday off and say, oh, you have to go and hire a lawyer and you have to go to court and it's going to take you this length of time and so on.
It's easier to just let the minister decide.
Just let the minister decide. I mean, I've never heard. So that is one of the provisions which I've said made basically the compassionate gratuity. They have just simply done the codification. But then this is a terrible provision. And the other one, you have to do 7 years at least. I think we should
Should
just
be
leave.
less.
The 2 years provision. You see, what I argued, I said even though this is an act by itself, and you can't import things just willy-nilly, you may import things from other laws which would suit the circumstance. I say, and for severance payment, if you do 2 years, you can qualify. Now, if a guy work between 20 and 22 with the public service for the in practical terms and didn't work with them anymore, and wait until he has retired and come and say, listen, I want this. This was at the time of his retirement. But if he works from 58 to 60, he might work somewhere else and work for 2 years there. Like as a watchman, for instance.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Should be able to get it. He doesn't have to do 7 years. That's my point. So you can
According to the circumstance.
you can pull that in from the Protection of Employment Act. Similarly, I said that the 2 weeks which was used was in the original Protection of Employment Act of 1980, which was passed by the Labour Party administration under Milton Cato, which was a fantastic act. That's an act which was truly revolutionary in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we improved on that. We repealed that and upgraded it in 2004 and increased the compensation. And I said, now that we are codifying this, we should codify it with that increased compensation, so you could have 2 weeks for if you work up to 10 years, 3 weeks if you work between 10 years and 25 years, and 4 weeks if you for every year you worked after 25 years. You know, incorporate something more progressive if you're now codifying it. They dismissed that too.
So this bill only served the purpose of giving the minister really the power to decide.
Well, that's one important thing what the bill does. And
I mean, from the standpoint of it already being in practice, it's the only thing the bill changes.
It's good you codify it.
Yeah, but the only thing the bill changes now, it is law. It was already in practice. It's now law.
Yeah.
So
and then the second thing, which it does, is to, and there were two other bills which buttressed this. The one to put the non-pensionable persons in the public service and those who are teachers, to let them, non-pensionable teachers,
the retirement,
to put their retirement age to 65, to meet what will happen in 2028 with
everybody else,
with the NIS now. But we, as I say again, used to extend everybody as they ask. You go 61, 62, 63, and so on.
You get an extension.
It's now 64. Well, it's just this year is going to be 64. Yes.
I remember though that there was a huge outcry from the NDP. They were adamant that people should retire at 60. It's wicked to let people work to 65.
Yes. Well,
can they change that?
They're in a different. They take the position that they want to codify this so that you're lining up with the NIS, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
But the NDP had opposed the 2004 upgrade of the Protection of Employment Act. They opposed it. They said that, you know, it would kill small businesses if they have to pay all these large sums in severance payment.
Yeah.
You know, I say, but it's not a retirement benefit. That's if you dismiss somebody unfairly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All you have to do, don't dismiss somebody unfairly. But if you dismiss somebody unfairly, because the retirement is different than an unfair dismissal.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So the argument didn't make any sense either. So
they tend to do that.
To the extent that you codify what we had been doing, I'm fine with that. But to the extent that you have derogated from many things, that is to say, the 2 year, you make it worse by just having it for 7 years. You import a provision from the Established Pensions Act, and then you give the minister this power to deny people this compassionate gratuity. It's not good at all. There's one positive thing I must mention about the bill. It extends the years from 26. You can go up to 33 and a third. Well, that's fine. But in the substance of it, I'm talking about getting the compassionate gratuity. That has always been the case.
Yeah.
Over our 25 years in practice.
So have there been persons who did not receive their compassionate gratuity during your time?
No.
For one reason or the other?
No. Everybody who
qualified.
And you qualified when you retire.
Mm-hmm.
And
so there'll be people who are listening to us right now.
Yes.
Who received it.
Oh, over my time, thousands of people, hundreds upon hundreds of people received the compassionate gratuity.
So this is nothing new for those people.
Not at all.
It's just made law.
It's just made law. Yeah. But I wanted them to get the equivalence now that we codifying as happens under the Protection of Employment Act. But that was denied.
But that's not happening.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
And now,
well, here's this. Did they criminalize whistleblowing under the Audit Act?
Yes. That we could come to that.
I thought we were wrapping up there. Yeah. All right.
The two acts which were associated with this, which came subsequent, to amend the pension law, to put in something for the non-pensionables, that the time for them to get their, that they can go to 65, so that you had that provision. The teachers, and that's fine, because that practice was in place in any case. The thing was done for the teachers, and I have no problem also because we were doing that for the non-pensionable teachers. But I draw this matter, a practical matter, to them. I say increasingly you have fewer and fewer non-pensionable teachers, because the teacher 1s and teacher 2s, which are non-pensionable, Gandhiman, are really young people by and large. Some of them are even university graduates, particularly teacher 2s, who are not yet appointed.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a few teachers who never went to teachers' college or didn't complete teachers' college, who are teachers 1 and 2. And by and large, they are older persons. I asked to find out how many of them are in the system. They didn't have that information. We have information about, which is available in the estimates, about how many teacher 1s and teacher 2s are on the books. Lecoq misunderstood something when I was saying, I said these are the numbers in primary school. About 32% of the teachers in primary school, 400 and something, are teacher 1s or 2s. But there are fewer in the secondary schools, and I was doing a sample in the secondary schools. So he gave a number which was larger than the number that I gave, but what I gave first was only the aggregate number I gave was from the primary schools, and then selected some from secondary schools to show that it's less of a problem, less of an issue in the secondary schools. Now, in terms of teacher 1s or 2s, and I don't know how many teacher 1s or 2s you have in the secondary schools who are actually persons approaching 60, for instance. But I say there's a problem to be managed there, Candyman. You and I in the classroom, in the staff room. I have a degree. I went to teachers' college. So I'm qualified. I have a subject qualification and I have a teacher qualification. I have to go at 60. But you, who haven't gone to teachers' college, or haven't successfully passed teachers' college, that you can go to 65. I say if there are many of those in a particular class staff room, you can have some sense of unease. And that the question I raised had to come that for everybody, not just the non-pensionables, but pensionables too, who want to go to 65, that the issue would arrive for them to go to 65. Not many persons who are pensionable usually want to go to 65, but some would want to because they're not getting their NIS. Though they have their state pension, they're not getting their NIS. Full pension until 65. They can get a reduced pension from the NIS because they wouldn't pay for for those 5 years.
Yeah, the 5 years
contributions. So that issue would have to be dealt with, and it would assume immediacy in the classrooms. As I say, the extent of the problem may be lessened by the fact that the education revolution has been so successful that you have very few of those persons remaining in the teaching system. So they may not cause the friction to the degree that if there were more of them. But I just do not have the number as to how many of them. But I know anecdotally the number couldn't be big.
Yeah, well, let's say good morning to Morris Small online. Morris says, I got my compassionate gratuity, took it at 60.
That's the point. There are persons who...
So we do have people listening who benefited over the
And
years.
as I say, it's routine. The bulk of them come out from the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Transport and Works, and the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Agriculture. Those are the ones where the bulk of these persons have come from. You have one or two else. You have numbers elsewhere. So I say we mustn't subject this to Trumpian hyperbole. One of the things, though, which I'll come back to something on this, and we'll go to the audit. When I said that jurisprudentially, this is a bill of you deal with a subject matter of its own special kind, and you can't import wholesale provisions from other laws, though you may go to them as reference points to see if you can get some best practices and put them in. Minister Andrew John said, I heard him shouting over there, you hear me with big words? So I had to pause. I say, you're a retired school teacher, and you think jurisprudential is a big word that people wouldn't understand?
He's sitting in Parliament.
I said, yeah. I say, you want me what to do? Use only monosyllables when I talk? One. I mean, I can't.
Once you get past 2 syllables, that's a no-no.
I mean, I just don't understand this.
Speak
ask
English,
him,
please.
I ask him, I really worry about the children whom you taught. You know?
Speak English. You're not speaking English.
But you get this kind of demagoguery.
Yeah.
You know, speaking your language properly.
Yeah.
And
It's
using
frowned upon.
words-
It's frowned upon. Why therefore did we do all this work to bring about an education revolution?
You know, I could have taken a longer way around to explain jurisprudential. It seemed just, in my head, just an appropriate word to use at the particular time. It's just...
I heard that little exchange. I thought it was
And then,
interesting.
well, in as much as we're dealing with John, when he is talking, he said there's a case of somebody from North Central Windward, and he'll call the name. And they call the name of a blind lady. You know, she's from Chester Cottage. And says that she had the problem, she didn't get her retirement benefit.
That's true.
So I didn't want to enter the discussion about Cheryl with my friend who I know, because I don't think that untruths must be spoken about people in the parliament, or things personalized in this way in the parliament. I didn't want to contribute to that discussion in the parliament. But what he said, any discerning listener would see that he was making this thing up as he went along, because he said she had this problem because she was transferred from one place to the next. But if she was transferred from one place to the next, she didn't retire.
No. Continuous employment.
Huh?
It's continuous employment. You just at a different location.
I didn't understand the point that he's making. But Cheryl is doing a very good work. She's the head of Voice of the Disabled.
Yes.
And she's been using state property for quite a while out at she's gotten the permission to be using from our time out at Sanssouci. And we have in the estimates during our time for many, many years, and it's carried over into the new estimates for this government, a grant, an annual contribution to our organization. I mean, it's there in the books. And Cheryl is my friend. She's a good human being. As I say, she's doing excellent work. But a fellow wants to make a point.
Is this a normal thing, though? Because do you name people in parliament like this and talk about their business?
People talk about their business, which is not, and is not even truthful. The way he represented the issue.
I found it distasteful. I'm not accustomed to this. It's not normal.
You know, he's and of course, persons with the same idea say, "Oh, a thing like that happened," and somebody from North Central. This kind of petty demagoguery.
Minister John is a very good storyteller.
Well, I remember in his first presentation.
Yeah. He always has these stories.
And he apologized afterwards. He said, I might have used a little language which I should not use, that there was corruption. And he says so many false things.
Yeah.
But as a man who comes from the countryside and from a farming community, a long rope doesn't get in a short rope. But you have this in also in the debates which are taking place. You have Daniel Cummins saying that I didn't get any advice from the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, or the vaccine requirement, which they call the vaccine mandate.
Did you advise yourself?
And, I'm happy that he has fallen in love with the work of Simone Keyser Beach, because I've been telling everybody for years.
She's an exceptional professional.
She's an exceptional professional, and that she's top of the line for the CMOs in the region. I say not only is she the most accomplished in my view, addition to that, she's such a beautiful woman of grace and poise and everything. You know what I mean? So, but they used to lambaste her,
I know.
Cummins has now found her quality. But I understand that some people from the NDP are cannibalizing him because they just took the CMO's affidavit from the vaccine cases.
and plastered it online.
I hear the pastor online to show what advice was given, or not given, as the case may be, and they tearing Cummins apart. But this is the kind.
But that's how he trained them. That's how they were trained.
But that's and he gets up and he tells these terrible untruths and distortions in the parliament. All of them, Friday, same thing. It's a hallmark of these guys.
Yeah, they just make it up as they go along.
Yeah, and then imagine. Friday acknowledged that the reforms strengthen the NIS because I've talked about
No.
Yes.
No.
Not only that, he said they supported the reforms. I sat down there. I mean, a total untruth.
Anybody got a copy of the Hansard?
They meant, in fact, the demagogue Andrew John was saying in his thing, and where did all the NIS money gone? And then Friday came afterwards and said, these reforms strengthened the NIS, and the NIS is a good place. And how he ain't playing any politics with the NIS because Annie Muse has taught him that. I'm sure Annie Muse has taught him that.
But he didn't listen.
But he didn't listen to Annie. I'm sure Annie taught him that.
They paraded all of it. They went on the radio. They went everywhere, and they
all the time. Them and with the union leaders, comrades.
Yeah.
The fellas from the Public Service Union. I mean, and Stuart Haynes will go
mash
on.
up the NIS. I remember Stuart Haynes had to be on radio program after radio program,
But that's the
defending
point.
it and
met
explaining.
with them and explain to them.
Yeah.
And
Nah,
when the
man,
reforms were carried out, they just boiled down like Baji. They moved on to something else, like how they dealt with the crime situation.
But people expected of them, because they led people to believe that if they were to form government, they would reverse these reforms. That's how anti-reform they were.
But this is why yesterday I said a question which has not been addressed and which must be addressed, because we were addressing it, but we were carrying out the reforms in the NIS first. The public service pension is an area for which there has to be reform. No. Currently, theoretically and practically, you can get up to 116% of your salary when you retire, if you stay there long enough. Mm-hmm. Because you get 66.67% of your salary from the state pension. You get 2/3. And you get 50% of that from the NIS. But you contribute to the NIS, the employer also contributes to the NIS. So you can get up to 116%.
Is that sustainable?
Of course it's not sustainable. So the idea which I was canvassing, and there are variations of the idea, a simple one. Not in relation to people who are already pensioners. Those who are in the public service already, sorry, not who are pensioners, those who are already in the public service, and those who are the existing pensioners too, public service pensioners. You can't touch that because that is protected by Parliament. So if any of them gets there, that's that. But it's a category which is increasing very large in terms of expenditure in the current account expenditure of the government, recurrent spending. Most private sector places, when they have their group pensions, which is contributory, you pay up to they go up to 80% of your salary. Naturally, if a person wants to have more than 80% of their salary, they can take out another policy, separate as an individual one, either annuity or a life policy to take care of them and their family. But one suggestion is to have the NIS administer this pension with merge NIS and the state pension. And you can cap it at, say, 80, so you get 50% from the NIS. And the state puts in a contribution additionally now of a further 30%. Now, that would mean that for future public servants, those who now come in, would not be able to reach 116% of their pension. But that is something which, that discussion has to take place. Because the ordinary man would protest about that. If we reach a situation where you leave it and everybody is getting 116%, or a number certainly over 100%. Working people will say, well, why am I funding this thing when
Yeah.
I'm a low salaried person, I ain't getting that from those who are non-pensionable in the public service, and also the private sector workers. And I make the point, Candyman, that if you reform it in that way, you can enlarge the pensionable numbers from the public service without you reaching the numbers that you currently reach for a narrower band of pensionables. You see the point?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be quite equitable and good for the current non-pensionables who get their gratuity, the compassionate gratuity, who get their NIS, but they could get a top up if we reform it.
As we're on, before we move on from that topic, there's a question that came in here. Does the bill apply to statutory?
It does not apply to statutory bodies. This is another area where we ask that be done. Only Cox say you don't see a good work for this body and that, and come and shout across. What kind of nonsense is this? I don't see how it is nonsense. You put it in the law that public enterprises, statutory bodies, state companies, that provisions as are in this law must apply at a minimum in the state enterprises, so that the state enterprises can have flexibility, but it must not be below this particular minimum threshold. It's something which can be done now that we codify everything. And I pointed out more broadly. I said the retirement age used to be 55. Then it went to 60. People are living longer. People are living healthier. In some countries, in nearby, Barbados is 67 is the retirement age. They push that in France. French workers are rebelling because French workers have a particular view. They want to retire earlier and enjoy life. But
retire on the vineyard
because they get better salaries.
Yes.
They're a developed country, yes, and they have better salaries. So, but the issue, I raised the issue Because there's a demographic problem. And the demographic problem is this. The fastest growing sector of our population is the over 60s.
Older.
60s and above. They are not the largest segment, but they're the fastest growing. The largest segment is still 16 to 35. But the growth in that category
It's slow.
is slowing
Yeah.
because rather than having a replacement rate of 2.1 children per woman on an average, you're having now like 1.5. That's why the numbers are falling in the primary school. If you want to see something, just 5 years ago, you had 2,000 and something children going to
CPE.
CPE exam. No, it's 1,700 and something.
It's falling.
I just give that as a signpost.
Yes.
And this matter of declining fertility rates is a matter which is all over the Western world. In Korea, it is under. It's like 0.8 of 1% of a child
Yeah.
per woman, and on the average, there are some schools in South Korea which have had to close in certain communities because there are no children to attend them.
Yeah. The Koreans,
Japan.
the Japanese have a serious problem.
See,
In fact, they got homes that are just there, empty.
That's the
There's
point.
Nobody in them,
that's the point.
and they're not selling because there's nobody to buy them.
And the population which is expanding is the African continent,
And Indian.
India. So that you and I make the point, and I want to put this to the larger global politics. Africans are migrating, either because their labor is needed, or because of the drought, or because of certain wars and famine in certain places. They're migrating. So too are Indians. Also people, largely quote-unquote brown people from Latin America, because the U.S. market requires the labor. Never mind what Trump is talking about. And once you have persons moving like that, and you have the number in the youthful section of the population declining, human beings are animals, not plants. And procreation will take place across ethnic lines. And you are having increasingly a browning of the world. And with notions of beauty, as I pointed out last week, becoming associated with the original countries from which part of the browning has arisen. And this is frightening. The white supremacists, as you see in Europe, in North America, they want to make Europe white again. They want to make North America white again. But it ain't. That's why I say it's an illusion. They're delusional, and what they're seeking to do is to look forward to some imagined pristine past, which really never was, but which will not be in the future, which is not even happening now. And if you have a public policy, or if you have a philosophy based on, frankly speaking, something which is unattainable, an illusion, you're bound to be disillusioned because it will not happen. Which is all these. So we are at an inflection point now with this fear by these persons. No.
There's a question in relation to the NIS.
Yes.
The person is asking if and when NIS contributions will be increased.
Well, there was a set number as part of the reforms for them bit by bit annually, but you also going to have enhanced pensions. And we are waiting the actuarial report. And part of the reforms would include a unemployment benefit for persons who are NIS contributors.
What does that mean?
Well, that the rules vary for unemployment benefits, but if you're unemployed for a period of time, 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever, while you're trying to get new job and so forth, you will get a portion of what your salary would have been. It can't obviously be
the full thing, yeah.
Full or indeterminate.
Yes.
But there's a study done by we had engaged through the NIS, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, for their professionals to do a study in that regard. We had actually agreed that we should implement it in January, but the NIS wanted to do the implementation after the actuarial study, which takes place in July.
Okay. I hope that satisfies you. Annetta?
Then Kisal reported to me that she took a strong position in opposing the audit bill because of the criminalizing of what you may call a whistleblower.
Yeah, let's get to that.
Yeah.
So I got that update from Comrade Carlos James,
Yes.
that they're now criminalized whistleblowing under the Audit Act.
Yes.
And so if you leak any information, you're liable to a fine of up to $10,000.
Yes.
Does it come with prison time as well?
Yes. Well,
Potential.
under the protection of under the Criminal Procedure Code, if there is no imprisonment mentioned, just a fine. There's a schedule in the alternative. The law provides, a general law provides an alternative for if you have fines. If it's fines of $100, so many weeks. If it's a fine of $500, I think it's 3 months or 6 months. So the term of imprisonment varies if you do not pay the money.
Okay. So the administration, the government now, which is run by the NDP,
Yes.
they're seeking to criminalize or to say that the people who leaked information to them during the election campaign to give Shallow his briefcase full of leaked documents, those people are criminals.
Well, it would be information leaks in respect of the operation of the Audit Act, not in a general way.
Yeah, but they got information that I remember they leaked a lot of things.
But there are a lot of information which
there's
is being
people's
leaked,
salaries.
which would
fall under that.
Which would fall under that,
Yeah.
coming through the audit. Now, Kisal was making one simple request, which is not unreasonable. These are new things which you're bringing in, and which have certain penal sections. And it is not an emergency that you need to pass this bill yesterday. If it's an emergency, a government could always say, listen, this thing can't wait. It's an emergency. You have, there's a hurricane situation which happened, there's a national emergency of some kind, you have to tighten up on something, or there's a pandemic, some health epidemic or something like that. And you have to act with swiftness to save lives and livelihoods. But there is no need, Candyman, for this to have been passed yesterday.
Why do you suspect there was such a hurry then?
Well, if a government comes and says, what we're really about is for the private companies, private audit companies, which we parcel out some auditing to. Because under the Audit Act, when we reformed it, you have a lot of additional powers to the Director of Audit, where the Director of Audit can contract a firm to audit this or that state enterprise. Hitherto, that wasn't permissible. We brought that in. What will happen in effect is that the state enterprise will say to the Director of Audit, we're thinking of hiring Candyman and Sons or Candyman auditing firm to audit these books. And the Director of Audit say, fine, that's thing, we will contact them and the audit would be done under our imprimatur. If you're saying that those private persons who are going to do the audit, if they reveal anything, they'll be subject to certain penalties. Well, they will be subject already to certain professional guidelines, auditing standards. But this is carrying it further with penal sanctions. And that is something which is to be concerned about, worried about, and which could take us into completely new territory. I don't think it was necessary for them to proceed with that yesterday. Neither was necessary or desirable for them to proceed with it yesterday. I wasn't there for that debate because I had to leave on an emergency.
Well, it might not have been necessary or desirable for us.
Yes.
But given all the urgent matters which they campaigned on that needed to be addressed, I don't think any reasonable individual who looks at it would question why they needed urgently to deal with that one before they do other things.
Yes.
I will leave it at that.
Yes.
For now. Here's a comment from Comrade Miniva Glasgow online. She says, by 2027, NIS contribution will increase to 15%. It is currently 14%.
Yes.
It should be capped at 16%, except another actuarial review recommends any further increase.
Yes. Now,
thank you, Comrade Glasgow, for that.
In Barbados, the NIS is capped at, in Barbados, the current NIS, I think, is 19 or 19.5, both between employer and employee. No.
So we have to make that we have to make that clarification for people who are listening, because people might be listening and hearing up to 16% and thinking, oh my gosh, 16% of my salary is gone.
It's basically split
So
between
split,
employer
yeah.
and employee.
Yeah. So when you get to 16%, you're talking 8% from you and 8 from
Yeah.
more or less, or maybe 7 from you and
Yeah,
9 and
yeah.
Y. Okay.
I think it's a little more from the employers in the reforms. No, the problem with the NIS from the beginning is that where the National Provident Fund was 10%, 5 and 5. When the NIS came in, it came in at 5 in the aggregate for employer and employee. Whereas St. Lucia had kept the 10 when they moved from Provident Fund to NIS. Here, it was reduced markedly. So it was. So when
Why was that done? Was it done to sort of get people on board?
Yeah, there was
like a marketing.
There was a conversation which was not well informed by some people who had called themselves progressive at the time, that you're taking workers' money.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take away money from the workers and so on, and it's really an investment.
The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Incidentally,
That was the very same. Those were the very same sentiments that came out of the NDP when we were doing this reform.
absolutely. And I said repeatedly,
They said it was a tax. Remember
they
that?
said it was a tax.
Your tax going up.
Leacock said it was a tax. And Friday's barefaced, to say that they supported it. They did not.
No, it did not.
The other thing is this, Candyman. They went about saying that the government was dipping their hand in NIS money, when in fact I had to go and explain over and over again. In the region, the number of the exposure to government by NISs was over 30% on an average. Some was much higher.
Ours was way below that.
Ours was 11% and declining,
Way below
which
regional
was
average.
the best. In fact, Stuart Haynes made the point that 20% would be, that exposure would be pretty okay.
be
That's acceptable.
acceptable, yeah.
That would be acceptable.
I remember him doing that on Boom.
And
We had a long interview on Boom.
and the NDP fed all their propagandists with these talking points. And I went on the radio and I said, the NIS remains, and it will be, barring something cataclysmic between now and 2065, the best investment for a worker. Friday, this is what Friday said. I wrote it down.
They scoffed at you when you said that.
They scoffed at me. This is what Friday said yesterday. I want to quote it. Friday said,
Good morning, Arnold Monroe online, and Elliot Laborde. Good morning. Lavon Evans. Good morning.
yeah, this is what Friday said. The NIS is sound and still is the best investment that you can make. They're talking to the workers. Tell the workers that it's still the best investment they can make.
Those are the words of Dr. Friday.
Repeating
Things,
exactly
things change. Boy.
what I said. And they laughed at me at the time.
Yeah, they did.
Yes. And then the yesterday also, this Moody's debt. is around their necks like an albatross. They make, Leacock had to make reference to it, different sets of them had to make reference to it, they tiptoeing around it. Because my answer to their folly and to their propaganda is on 2 occasions put them decidedly on the back foot. And if they come out with any foolishness, I'll go on the offensive. Because they're the ones responsible for the Moody's downgrade, the NDP. Moody's made it plain up to the 18th of December last year, Candyman, I read the document, that the way you'll get a downgrade is if you can't raise enough money overseas on concessional terms. If there's a nasty weather event, and if you go to the market for excessive engagement. That is to say, if you go and borrow at market rates, like what they're doing with the 200 million, and then talking about default now, which is talking about debt swap, which would amount to a default. And Moody's emphasized those things in the report itself. And they took down Moody's report in 2025 July, which maintained the rating, which we have had for the last 10 years prior to this one. And they big us up. So I don't know how the people who writing about these things, they really think it's a set of idiots in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
So I don't know if you got to listen to the Issue at Hand program on Sunday. But
I've seen reports on it.
Yeah. So Professor Robinson was on.
Justin.
Yes. And
son of the soil, who heads the campus, the UWI campus at Five Islands in Antigua.
Yeah. So he was making the point that over the last few months, he's looking at the regional securities market.
Yes, regional government securities market, the exchange.
So he was saying St. Vincent and the Grenadines got, over those few months, we were taking just around $28 million. Not exactly the same, but just about the same amount of money every month. And we're getting them on 91 days, just about 3%, right? And when asked, he suggested that maybe it could be that they're
that
going
new money
back.
is rolling over money. It's rolling over money.
Yeah.
The money is rolling over.
They're borrowing more this month to pay for last month.
They're rolling over. And
well, how dangerous is that?
I suspect.
How much is a problem is that? Or what is an what could that be an indication of?
Let me tell you where the problem going to come. Mm-hmm. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with a government rolling over short-term money, because each issuance is for 90 days. So you roll it over on you divide it up, so you have almost 30 million if you're doing 90 million. So I'm sorry, you're doing it over 90 days. You do the 30 million or the 28 million every 30 days. But all you do, you just roll it. And I suspect that they've been rolling monies at a higher rate than, because the short-term money would get you 3%. We have gotten short-term money for much less. Depend on the interest rate environment and what is the people perceive whether you're a reasonable risk. The problem for them is this. Is when you roll in, and people tell you when you roll that I'm not rolling over anymore. I want my money. And you don't have it. At that point, you had to go and borrow elsewhere.
And maybe at higher rates.
Definitely it will be at a higher rate. And private placement. Not on the RGSM. Because if you don't roll it over, fellas are beginning to. I'm pretty sure that they had to be jostling to get people to roll over. Because the same way the people in private placement of bonds for longer term, that they're demanding higher rates of interest, up to 7.25. You spook that private placement market, you'd spook the RGSM market too, with talks of debt swap, talks of unsustainable debt. I will tell you this. You go and ask the members of the cabinet, Friday's cabinet. I don't believe that anybody other than Friday would have been informed by the Director General of Finance and Planning that we have to roll the debt. So that's where the problem comes. If you run in and the persons who are investing there, if you run in a debt swap talk, an unsustainable talk, and you begin to talk down everything, people might start to get scared to even want to roll over. They say, "Boy, let me cash my money in. Let me cash because I don't want to keep this going," and that's when you have the problem.
Yeah. So, and Professor Robinson made the point that it's, so this would be seen as a liquidity risk.
It is a liquidity risk.
By Moody's, and that's one of the reasons for their downgrade, because they're saying, yeah, you're getting these short-term loans on the regional market, but you're not able to access longer-term loans, which give you more breathing space, and you can do larger developmental.
The point is Moody's would have no doubt seen, because
they're paying attention.
They pay attention. They see that. They see you present your budget. You have 103 million on the face of it as a current account deficit, and you're financing this by going to borrow in one fiscal year $200 million on the local market, and you're not going anywhere other than private placement to get it. And you can't get it. And when you're getting at 7.25% interest. They would say that you are in trouble. You can't finance your budget. Well, yesterday, Leacock he said this. I wrote it down. I have it here in my notebook.
Good morning to Yvonne and Linton Primus, Natasha, Macmillan. Good morning to all y'all.
He said I'm presenting this thing against the backdrop of with the Moody's report, and making it appear as though, you see some of the people that try and tighten, but instead of that we're doing more. Well, they ain't doing more. It's the same 2 weeks pay for each year worked. You understand what I mean? And whatever even though you extend the number from 26 years to 33 and a third years, you don't have a lot of persons working the 33 and a third years. But the point about it is this, Candyman.
Some other people are trying to tighten.
It's a small number who will be coming on every year.
Yes.
So it's not a huge thing every year. So you spread it out. But he says, I tell you, things are tight. You say the economic, the financial situation is tight. No.
I went to a.
So he.
Let me.
He says that, but there's no growth. There's no initiatives for growth.
Yeah. Which Moody's the report is basically saying, because they don't mention growth.
They didn't mention growth. They say, well, listen.
But they mention growth by omission.
They mention growth by omission. And during our time, they were saying the economy is growing. In fact, the only way they mention growth in this particular report is it says that even amidst the increase in debt because of COVID and burial, volcanic eruption and burial.
And large developmental projects. Yeah.
And the port. He says we did 3.4% growth estimated in 2025. But about the prospects going forward,
no confidence with that.
they mentioned nothing about that because they had mentioned in December that if you don't grow this thing, you'll get a downgrade.
I visited a rum shop yesterday in Mespo. In two rum shops side by side, well, basically opposite each other. You cross the street from one, you're in the other one. And you normally, any hour of the day you go there, they'd be full of guys. And both of them were empty. So I asked the shopkeeper, I said, well, what's going on? He said to me, boy, lately, things real sad. The man ain't even coming to buy rum. So we just got hope they come in the evening time. Sometimes they come on the line, they buy a little tea and thing, but during the day, nothing. So when man stop buy rum, you know things bad.
You know, Candyman, when I hear these fellas talk about how they had to come and clear this, let me remind people. In 2001, we paid severance pay to over 1,000 former estate workers at the former government estates of Orange Hill, Rabuka, Walilabu, and Richmond Vale, which had been owed to the workers for 16 years. You know how I raised that money? The 3 million? Because when they asked me, when I say I'm going to do it, they say, and how you said the treasury, we leave the treasury with no money for you. I say, I'm not getting it from the treasury there. I say, they say, where? I say, I had the money in my head. They laugh, they say, the money is in your head. I say, well, wait until next time when I come to Parliament, you will see how the money come out of my head. What I did, Candyman, we had in this country, we still have, lots of companies which are registered outside of St. Vincent but own property in St. Vincent. So if they want to sell the shares, they could sell the shares. They will still have to pay. But I make sure that I say I want the information. Normally, an external company they have land or anything, and they'll have a title deed in the name of the company. But I wanted a record of all these companies to be registered in our company's registry. You're an external company holding property here, that's fine. Just go and register. And you'll have to submit your records, and you have to do it on an annual basis. We want to know who owning these companies. And to do that, a flat fee of $3,000.
A small fee.
3,000. There were 1,000 companies. Well, more than 1,000. But 1,000 at $3,000 is 3 million. That's how I get my money. Channel alone was a check of nearly $500,000. The CRD, because they had a number of companies owning, registered in the Bahamas, Bermuda, wherever. BVI. We did that.
How many workers are we talking about here?
1,000 workers. And
they'd been owed the severance for 16,
if you
over
died,
16 years.
If you died, the person who will put in the hands of the Attorney General. The Attorney General will be administrator for everybody estate of those who died. And on affidavit evidence before her, you just go to office and two persons say, we had the children and so on. The Attorney General sort that out. You didn't have to go to court with that. To get your money easy now. Then we paid the severance payment in 2001, 2002 to hundreds of other workers who were due these payments for several years by the former NDP administration, including government sanitation workers who were transferred to the state-owned CWSA, the Banana Growers Association workers, and workers at the former state-owned Diamond Dairy, and the workers at the state-owned Bellevue Iron Factory.
Statutory workers.
Oh, everybody who they laid off, they didn't pay them nothing at all. They closed.
Wait, who was it that said yesterday when you suggested that statutory workers be included? Said that was ludicrous.
Well, Cummins
said that was ludicrous.
Yeah.
But you've done a similar thing.
Then payment of severance payment promptly to workers who had been transferred or terminated due to reorganization of state enterprises or central government departments conversion into public enterprises. For example, former employees of the St. Vincent Marketing Corporation, Public Works Department, and local government workers. Hitherto, there was no previous government paid severance payments in these circumstances. Payment on an ongoing basis. This is in this book, which I wrote, called The Political Economy of the Labor Movement in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This was published in 2019. This volume, Candyman.
2019?
2019. Payment on an ongoing basis of a compassionate gratuity to non-pensionable workers in the central government who reach retirement age. The compassionate gratuity is calculated at the rate of 2 weeks before each year worked. These workers also, as per usual, receive their ongoing pensions under the National Insurance Services Act. Funding from 2003, January 2003, by the then wholly owned state-owned National Commercial Bank, now the Bank of St. Vincent and Grenadines, to its workers at the inauguration of their pension scheme, up to 15 years in arrears from 1978, at a cost of $2 million. Thereafter, the pension scheme has been contributory between workers and the bank. This pension arrangement was more favorable than the one proposed by the CTAW, the union representing the workers. In other words, when I arrived, as part of the reforms at the Bank of St. Vincent, they run in the bank for 16 and a half years, and it was the only bank in town where the workers didn't have a pension scheme. I talked to some young workers the other day when I waited at some business at the bank. They said they didn't know I brought it in. Of course, they were school children at the time.
Yeah.
And what I did...
Some probably weren't born yet.
What I did, Candyman, from 1978 to 2003, January 2003, I set up this system. And I paid Those workers who were there paid their raise from 1978 up to 2003. You get me there now? And then, from then on, it became contributory. Well, there were not many workers on there for 1978, but many were later. It came up to $2 million to put the workers in a position. They're talking to me about labor government. Then,
how many such people, how many situations like that has the current government had to fix?
none of these things, I sort them all out.
And, like workers who were owed for long periods of time would have to come in and...
You mean from our time?
Yeah, because
they know after
you were such a terrible guy. So
they don't have any of them.
They don't have anybody to pay off.
We enacted the upgraded Protection for Employment Act in 2004, where the NDP opposed the increase in these benefits on the ground that they are likely to make business uncompetitive and too expensive to operate. We paid tax-free annual bonuses from December 2002 to the public servants, to the public sector employees, up to the economic crash of 2008.
That's true.
And then, of course, we are doing the salary increases. And you hear nothing from the union them about salary increases.
Oh, no. I saw the PSU leader on... Instead, he was online trying to bring down the CMO up to this morning. Was it this morning or last night sometime?
Then, Candyman, we have raised the minimum wages since we were in office 5 times. The NDP did it 1 time in nearly 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me. I mean,
have they said anything about the minimum wage since?
We increased the minimum pensions at the NIS. We have strengthened the NIS. You look at the numbers at the NIS, there are 47,000 contributors now at the NIS. That is people who are working and contributing.
Mm-hmm.
Was 30,000 when we arrived. There's 17,000 more persons.
New jobs.
And Candyman, 17,000 more. And I've just explained to you the population is flat.
Mm-hmm. New jobs. And the Prime Minister says that the NIS is the best.
The reclassification of the workers in 2007. These fellas really have amnesia, We made the nursing assistants pensionable. We reduced the extent of personal income tax significantly.
And increase the threshold.
And increase the threshold below which you don't pay any taxes. We institute special programs for people like the YES and the SET. They oppose the YES, they call it Youth Exploitation Service.
They're loving it now.
We institute 100%
mortgage,
no down payment to public servants. Early o'clock, when you used to say that I go bust the bank, I go bust the government.
I benefited from one of those, thank God. That's the house that they said that you gave me, though. Thanks. I should say thank you, Minister.
By August 2001, we came to office in February, in March. I took a lot to Parliament repealing the Public Officers Conditions of Employment Act, which was on the statute book since 1970, where unreasonable restraints were placed on the freedom of expression, where they criminalized speech. No,
I'm only giving a sample.
But you're a dictator. Why would a dictator do those things?
I just giving a sample. So it's all laid out in my book, and I talked about them all the time. But what happens is this: in their cheerleading, they want people to forget all of these things. No. Candyman, you see this book? Labor is working for all. I just showed the book, which I myself wrote. All the articles in this book except one was written by me. ULP, the Party of Housing in SVG, at page 161.
We have copies of this at headquarters.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a copy of these books,
and I can put more there.
Yeah, you can stop by ULP headquarters and get your copy.
We lifted the housing stock from 28,000 households in 2001 to 48,000 households by the end of 2023.
How did this happen?
Well,
how did you do this?
We distributed lands, gave title to lands.
A lot of people were illegally occupying lands.
Yes, had the housing program, helped them with their housing. We had a housing program with all different types.
You had HLDC.
We had through HLDC. We had through the government.
Yes.
Through the housing. We have a lot of housing estates all about, which we built. From North Leeward, Central Leeward, South, all over the country.
Central Kingston.
Everywhere,
South
all
Central,
over Otley Hall.
South Windward.
Diamond, Sanssouci.
Mariaqua, up in Richland Park.
We did it we did it at Byra, we did it at Three Rivers. We did it up in Caratal. We did it over in Monbentic. We did it in Sandy Bay. These are not houses built with the
state money, state funds.
These houses built with state funds, but these are not houses built after disasters.
Oh, right.
This is a normal program.
That's what I meant. This is normal program where people got mortgages and paid for their houses. Yeah.
And but where you have disasters, we proceed and we build houses for people.
Yeah.
We built some too in Connery.
This is so interesting that throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you can go literally anywhere you are. You're within 10 minutes drive, at least 10 minutes drive of an area where people got houses from your administration.
Absolutely.
And I remember it was about 2 months ago, one of their propagandists, he likes to parade himself as an individual who is smart. But, people are smart until they open their mouths. So he went online. I think he's residing in the UK. He went online and said, it's so sad that because of this, the Unity Labour Party and Ralph Gonsalves, many Vincentians could not afford their home to buy a home, or can't afford to buy a home or build a home in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I remember responding to him and indicating that, most Vincentians are reading your comment in the comfort of their home, which they either bought or built under Unity Labour Party and under Ralph Gonsalves administration. You can't go anywhere and not see homes that were directly built. I'm not talking about, there are other people who went to the bank and they bought their land, and I'm talking about homes which you could say Labour built that, Labour built those, from north to north. And then the 100% mortgage
absolutely
opened up the door.
Absolutely.
For poor people.
Let me tell
you. Explain to, we got some young listeners, and they won't know like you said, you went to the bank and a lot of them didn't know what obtained before and who changed it. So why weren't people able to build homes, to get mortgages to build homes before the 100% mortgage?
For the simple reason. Before 2007, Candyman, before the reclassification, the salaries of public servants were not comparable to relevant comparators in the private sector. Of course, we started by giving bonuses and increases. In 2007, we did a reclassification. Across the board, on an average, the increases were in excess of 60-odd%. People's salaries, in many cases, doubled. Policemen starting, for instance. Nurses got an increase, staff nurses of 56%. Teachers did the best. Particular health professionals like the persons at the lab who were woefully underpaid got huge increases, and so on and so forth. Now, because the salaries are relatively low, and you had to pay down a down payment of 20% to build a house, to get your land and build a house, civil servants tended to build their house, get the 20% when they're in their 40s.
Or early 50s.
And
that's late.
And they retired at 55. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm coming. So you get a 30-year mortgage. When you are 45. Young man, you only have 10 years of working.
Mm-hmm.
But what families would do, one of them would go away upon retirement to America, to Tortola, to Anguilla, to Antigua, somewhere else.
At age 55 to migrate.
At age 55. A lot of households, a lot of marriages, a lot of relationships dissipated and broke up.
Mm-hmm.
But people migrated to keep a roof over their woman and the children. Sometimes the woman went.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what distance can do between man and woman? Nature of life and living. Eh?
And they would work overseas and send the money.
And they'll work overseas and send money to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
The idea of the 100% mortgage came to me. No down payment. When I was practicing law, public servants will come to me. I have a problem. Sometimes I talk to the bank or the credit union. But I will say to some of them, I will say, you build a house which was too big and too expensive and it's choking you. Why don't you sell it and build a smaller one now that you have the experience? That's what you need. Rather than allowing the bank to sell it. And they'd say to me, but I can't sell my house. I can't allow the bank to put my name in the newspaper, but I can't sell my house either. My wife is a school teacher. They're going to whisper in the staff room. That will sell me house because I can't pay for it and I build a smaller one. They go throw it in my children face in school. So I begin to think about this problem, Candyman. I say, but the public servants have a pension. They have security of tenure. The bank, if it wants, can attach the pension. You see what I mean? They have a salary. They would do 100%. When I put the issue first, could ask Morris Edwards. Morris said, well, you know, some risk going to be involved and so on. And say the idea it might work, you know, Morris would talk. I said, but the risk is not the government risk. It's the bank risk. The bank will decide how much they lend in, depend on your salary. If you can only afford a house for $100,000 at that time, they would lend you for that. If it's 150, they would lend you that.
You can always do the addition.
You can do additions
when you can afford to.
If you want to. You say, well, you know, a policy like this is big, you know, PM, we should do a study. I say, I don't mind a study. I say, but the study going to tell you exactly what I'm telling you. I say, but to satisfy you and everybody else, I say, who are we going to get to do this study? He say, well, he'll talk to Floyd Patterson, who was an auditor. Still is. We paid Floyd $65,000 for that study. Floyd came back with a study basically telling Morris exactly what I was telling him. Because I had figured it out myself. I didn't go and do the... Floyd naturally did the detailed analysis and income spread and you know how the auditors would do their various things now. Affordability and this and that. Floyd came to the conclusion that is a sound policy. A lot of the beautiful houses you see all about. And then over the Dry River, when we built the Rabuka Bridge in 2007, the banks begin to give mortgages to people over the Dry River. You see some big carry house, man home and below over there now?
Because the land has value now. That's one of the main.
The resale.
They couldn't sell their lands before.
If they build anything, they couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell it because it wasn't so far was the problem, you know.
No.
The problem was how could people get to it easily?
Yeah.
Or a bank might be crazy to lend you a house, lend you money then for $200,000 or $250,000. No, the bank lends people that kind of money to build houses over the Dry River. All they will go up to fancy.
You got houses over the pools, man.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
So, this article, which I wrote, I headline everything. I put everything. Houses and estates built under the ULP. Sandy Bay, Orange Hill at 2 locations. Langley Park, Caratal, Byra, Connery, Three Rivers, Villa Point, Sanssouci, Diamond, Green Hill, Otley Hall, Clay Valley, Vermont Retreat, Peters Hope, Rose Hall, Cumberland, Pettibone. And that's not the total list.
That was up to that point.
Up to the point which
Yeah.
Then, the building lots. We distributed over 6,000 building lots.
Across.
Then there were the Lives to Live program, which is a special subset to deal with people with disabilities. We built ramps for them and all the rest of it. All over the country.
Toilets and bathroom and so on.
And then, on the smaller number of houses, 28,000 in 2001, you had, Candyman, only 70% had pipe-borne water. Of that small number, and only 70% had electricity. Now, almost 100% of the houses have electricity and have water. Well, Grenadine is a special case with the water. If you can imagine, the only people who don't have electricity or water is if you decide to go and live a bush like me. And you ain't got the money to pay it because it costs me $60-something thousand to carry electricity up to where I am in gas. People think that I get favor because I'm Prime Minister. They could go and check the records by Vinlec. Water had to pay over $5,000 to take the pipe-borne water there. Even though I have a stream, naturally it's more convenient for me to have pipe-borne water. Rather than I run pipe from the stream now. Then, other than in Kingston and the immediate environs, garbage was not collected.
Oh, yeah.
We collect that from October 2001. It was happening all over the country. In Beckway, for instance, they had a landfill there. We had to fix that up. Now, them fellas need help from waste to go fix that up now. The 100% mortgages. Look, the law, turning dead, the Possessory Titles Act. You know where that idea came from? Turning dead property into live property. I was reading a book by a Peruvian economist, man from Peru.
Mm-hmm.
The book was called The Other Path. Peru had a right wing, and they had a left wing influenced by Mao Zedong, the Chinese leader, called the Shining Path. This guy is a social democrat, socialist. He has a book called The Other Path, meaning a path other than the shining path, and not for the right-wing people. And in it, he was addressing the issue of turning dead property into live property. And I use my legal understanding of the issues to do the possessory titles law. I assembled 3 lawyers along with myself and the Attorney General Judith Jones Morgan. The 3 lawyers, all 3 of them are dead now. Hans Matadiel, Andrew Cummins, and Parnell Campbell. And myself, with Judith Jones Morgan. We are the ones who drafted that law, which you see, where people get possessory titles built. So they can get the opportunists and those who have hates and malice for Ralph. But these are matters which we did with houses. And then the distribution of housing materials. The way housing materials used to be distributed before was you could get up to $200 worth of materials.
That was before. 200 US or AC?
EC dollars.
EC, okay.
In exceptional cases, you may reach 500. Exceptional cases. Candyman, there was a farm which you used to fill out, a farm. And the parliamentary representative, somebody else, somebody to sign it now, supporting somebody in the community, some person. These farms were prepared, not printed at government printery. They put them on a Gestator machine and run them off. And you used to go and collect the farm from the Ministry of Housing. The farm was a precious thing because people might find it strange now in the information technology and so forth. My office had a Gestator machine on which we used to run off the Unity newspaper. So, even as a parliamentarian, they're restricting the farms they're giving me. So I say, okay, I watch the farm. I don't see any particular indication on it other than Ministry of Housing and so forth. They didn't have any special mark on it. Simple Gestator form. So I just type it up. Had it type up on one of the Gestator skins and roll it off, so I had a lot of farms. When they discover the number of farms coming in, they change the farm so that I couldn't just do it in an ordinary way now. Tightening up. I'm telling you what was happening, you know. These are Louis Jones was a Minister of Housing at one time, then succeeded by Monty Roberts. I used to go and sit down and wait on them to make representation for my people, you know. Goat farms, things of public assistance, all kind of. In my 25 years in government, the fellas in the opposition too proud to go by any minister. To go and act. I will go by them, and particularly Monty Roberts. The secretary will say, well, you know, he just left. I said, but how he left? He said, well, there's a back door, he just left. I said, well, I go sit down here and wait a while, he might come back. I go sit down
the famous back door.
I will sit down for an hour and a half waiting, you know, comrade.
Yeah.
Not for me. You know why I did that? When I got elected, Bandy Ways from Edinburgh came to see me. Bandy Ways said, you are going to be important in the politics of this country. He said, I come here to advise you on one thing. Go to the ministers, them, and beg. Ask for your people. Don't be proud. He said, and people will see what you're doing. Bandy Ways, you know, a fisherman, highly intelligent, not formally educated. God bless his soul. Bandy Ways' advice resonated with me. So I didn't mind going and sitting down on Monty Roberts or my brethren Louis for an hour and a half. Nowadays, you could send man WhatsApp message. You think a cell phone in them days? If you call the government phone, is a secretary you get. They say they will give the minister a message. But forget about that, give minister which message. So I used to go and sit down myself. Candy man. There's so many other elements of the housing policy. So when I hear the talking, and then there are the houses built as a consequence of natural disasters.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. Quite a lot.
Now what is happening?
And all the assistance people got, even the house was not built. Some people had their homes entirely rebuilt or partially rebuilt, renovated,
roof taken off,
the roofs fixed partially or entirely.
So when I hear Andrew Dan talking all the rubbish he talk about how they inquiring on how many people they got.
Yeah.
People who get land, on the land question, same person get 4 pieces of land. Let me say who these 4 persons who get 4 pieces. Same person get 4 pieces of land.
Well, remember he said that
it's complete. It's fiction.
Remember his assertion that things are now in order at the Ministry of Housing, because no longer can the truckers, etc., go to the Ministry of Housing to get payment. They have to go to the Treasury now.
But that's where they always went to, the Treasury.
Oh, he didn't know that? Somebody.
That's all where they went all the time.
But he said that he's implementing that now. You can't go to the ministry. You have to go to the Treasury.
Jesus Lord.
Yeah.
Where? So there was
I tell you, he's a good fictional writer.
There was a fault at the Treasury, at the Ministry of Housing, people give out money.
He's a good
I mean, what kind of, I didn't hear that ignorant thing there.
Oh, by the way, we have some sad news. I'm just hearing of an apparent suicide by one of our police officers. Apparently at the SSU. I think it's at the base, because I'm told that he checked out with a weapon and went to the back and shot himself. So, an apparent
Jesus
suicide.
Lord.
A young man.
A man.
A young man. It's a young officer.
Jesus Lord.
Seems to me from the photograph, probably still in his 20s, but definitely
Oh, Heavenly Father.
a young man. Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm told it was at the base, at the SSU base.
oh Lord.
So condolences will go out to the family of this young man, and also to the members of the police force, especially his colleagues there at Special Services Unit. One of his friends told me that he seems to have been, quote unquote, going through it.
He what?
He's going through it. He's having a rough time. I don't know what particular reason for it would be, but it is tragic. It's very sad.
And while we have the opportunity here on the radio, in addition to the condolences, anybody who is having particular pressures from whatever source, psychological problems and social pressures, whatever kind of pressures, personal ones, reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, talk to a friend, responsible person in your family, maybe a pastor, former teacher, maybe a counselor. There's help.
Yeah, it's always important to find the people around that you can talk to.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on with this situation, but it is certainly sad. We need our young men. We need our young people.
Man, I don't know the source I don't know the origin of this thing. What got him, I don't know anything, so I can't speculate on anything. But I tell you this, across the country today, the faces of hundreds and thousands of men and women are strained and anxious. And the firings which are going on, this is no separating from the case. I'm not talking about the case because I don't know what it is. The way in which people are bullied, the problem with people not having, if you see my phone that I mentioned last the requests.
Mine too.
For books, school uniform, people, students who have to go and study. I mean, they just a bombardment. And the government is paying no attention. Yesterday it went to Parliament to play opportunistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that is why they found it so difficult to deal with what I had to say, and trying to interrupt every moment. You know, I just want to make this point again. The Ministry of National Security is in trouble.
Did the minister make any ministerial statement in regards to crime
Nothing.
yesterday?
He didn't say one thing about crime yesterday. Friday didn't say one thing. Amongst all their meanderings.
Yeah.
Among all their meanderings.
Yeah.
You know, and even when
I saw him do an interview, I think it was with SVG TV after Parliament about the bill. He didn't say anything about crime.
I will tell you this. I had to point out in 1993, 1993, the NDP, 1993, not 83, 1993, the NDP government with their one-party parliament, they passed a law that every new entrant would not be having any new entrant to the public service doesn't have any pension. Their pension is the NIS.
Wow. They did that?
Yes. That fell apart. When I mentioned that, I said that fell apart in 2000 when we had the protests, when they agreed the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And they then reversed themselves completely because they were trying to see if they could save their bacon or save the onion. And when I mentioned the protests arriving Friday said, will you talk about that? I said, I would love to talk about that and the reasons, but I'm not. I'm going to keep myself focused on the issue at hand. That the NDP sought to solve this problem of government, of the increase in costs for pensions, Candyman, by saying, well, the current lot we can't do anything about, but every new entrant, make your own arrangements with your pensions. Mm-hmm. If you want, go to a private company, do what you want to do, but only the NIS we have. That's the contribution we're making. Now, there are many countries in the Caribbean which have done that, My government was one of the few which maintained having a state pension, And I say, we will have it. We'll have to reform how we do it with the NIS. But we kept the faith on that. The NDP stopped it for new entrants. That's why when the new persons were coming in, they didn't mind to get a job. But when they saw that they were voting, the fellas were voting increased pensions for themselves, but none for the NDP, none for the workers, and also no increases, not a damn cent more for them was the famous expression.
Not another red cent.
Not a red cent for them.
Yeah.
We'll take some calls.
I'm just told that the young man is in his late 20s. And let's do a time check. It is 12:45 on the dot. 15 minutes to 1. You can call us. And remember, again, when you call, if you're calling direct, please make sure your number is not blocked or on private, because, we have some malicious individuals who don't have a life, and they call with their numbers blocked to create confusion and to say things that really don't deserve to be on radio. All right, so not for radio. So you're free to call us now, and you can send your comments as well on Facebook, and you can send your comments on WhatsApp. I'm going to read a few of them on here. All right, so let's get a few of them. Somebody says, "Oh, all right, that's an old one." What is the current situation on those recently graduated college students in terms of scholarships?
I don't know what the policy the government is pursuing. What I suspect is going to happen, Candyman, they will give a limited number. They'll cut back. They'll also cut back on the extent of the student loan program, the economically disadvantaged student loan program. They'll cut back on that too. You know? They'll cut back on all of those things. So I think the opportunities are going to narrow for young people to go off to the university to study.
Yeah, I think that should be expected.
They're going to say they're going to reform, they're going to review, they're going to do this. Usual crap now that Ralph gave his friends them and the ULP supporters. But what they wouldn't say, there's a high up man in the NDP. I wouldn't put it anything more than that. Was a son, Candyman, bright young man, who got 79.8% average in the year when he did his CAPE. The Ministry of Education will send up the names of the persons. If you meet the mark.
What was the mark?
80%.
80%. So you had to get up to 80%.
You had to get up to 80%. You get the 5-year scholarship. 75% average to 79.9 whatever percent. Just under the 80, that would be a 3-year scholarship. So they had this young man at 79.8 getting a 3-year scholarship. Because he didn't make 80. I looked at it as a former teacher, university lecturer, and a man with practical common sense. Because those who are below they got like 75, 76, 77. They didn't get even 78. I say, we should give consideration to this young man, 79.8, and round it up to 80. The CAPSEC is there as a witness. She said to me, this is so-and-so son. I said, he's a very bright boy. So I knew whose son it was. High up NDP person. But that did not stop me, because if it were somebody who was not a high up NDP son, I would have acted the same way. So when I hear they talk these things, and they get some fellow travelers who want to spread all kind of rubbish, it's necessary and desirable from time to time for me to make reference to all of these things. Well, let me hear the calls. But in answer to that question, they're going to restrict. They're going to restrict the numbers which they're going to give.
All right, let's try this call here. Hello. Hello, caller.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello, caller.
We probably lost him or her.
Let me just make sure. Hello? Hello? Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Dr. Gonsalves, good afternoon.
Hey,
Oh,
good
Mr.
afternoon.
Weeks.
Good afternoon.
Yes, answered, yes. I am
You want to
very curious
put a little
about
more for me? Some more juicy?
Yeah.
Sorry,
a
Lance.
number of things that
I'm
have
not
been
hearing it well.
happening.
Hello?
Some of them seem very simple, but when you think about them deeply, there may be underlying issues. I'm curious about. This is not one of those that have the underlying issues. But if persons were getting some compassion because the law didn't provide for them, and then now you change the law to provide for them, why are you still calling it compassionate?
Very, very interesting concept and language you raise. Very interesting one. It's really a non-pensionable gratuity.
Yes, I'm talking about yes. And to make matters worse, you put in a clause, 9.2,
Yes.
that the minister has a final say in whether or not you get this gratuity. So are you saying that the minister must have compassion on you in order for you to get this gratuity?
Well, the provision for the minister to deny you, if he's satisfied that you are guilty of misconduct or negligence or some kind of bad behavior. I just don't understand it. And Lansford, as you know,
But that's dangerous, Dr. Gonsalves.
highly dangerous. That's why
As you said.
That's why I had to say I support the codification, but not this.
As you said, the permanent secretary has responsibility for non-pensionable officers. And if you have in your office, in your ministry, someone who misconduct themselves, etc., etc., why will you allow this officer
to continue to retirement
to the point where they're being considered for a gratuity?
That's why I say they would.
As you said,
you can dismiss them with a month's notice or give them a month's salary in lieu of notice.
And depending on the nature of the misconduct, you will not even have to give them
notice. But what this does is to just give Lee Cockney power. That's all. To decide who can get it and who don't get it.
I really don't understand this.
Yeah.
And then you have this the pension.
Yes.
I really don't understand why. Maybe I have not studied the Pension Act sufficiently to state whether or not the procedure, the process taken to extend
your voice dropped there. I didn't hear that.
Officers is the correct one. But I was always interested in when you talk about pension for daily paid and minor salaried workers, the headline, the title of that bill, now law, was quite misleading. Because you and I know, Dr. Gonsalves, there are many civil servants, office attendants, etc., who have been lobbying for their positions to be pensionable.
Yes.
And when you now have an act saying pension for these workers, you may well likely be given the impression that these workers are now entitled for pension. You may be misleading them just by the title of the act.
I had
And in all of the promotion, all of the information coming out before the presentation to the Parliament, I was wondering if that's what they were about to do.
no. Well, yesterday
I agree with you, Dr. Gonsalves, that the pension system could be reformed, should be reformed, but I think it will be done much easier if parliamentarians lead by example. You start with yourself, and it would be much easier for us to support you and promote what you're doing. I agree with you that nobody should be getting an income more than what they were working for on the basis of a joint pension. But is that possible for the parliamentarians as well to be in that situation?
Well,
You get 50% one way and what another, 50% another way?
the parliamentarians at the moment, you take somebody like me who has served now for 32 years. In relation to my pension, it is 50% of my salary.
Right.
And in relation to a comparable person in the public service is, when you do 33 and a third years, you get 2/3. But I've argued, and you heard me yesterday, and the fellas don't understand when I make points like this. Jurisprudentially, pensions for parliamentarians are sui generis. A compassionate gratuity for non-pensionable is sui generis. Pensions for public servants, same thing. For teachers, that's why I have a separate one for teachers, a separate one for public servants, with some variations. There's some commonalities and some variations. I tell you why I make this point, and I make this point on the authority of the legal point. Monica Joseph, after she had retired as a Court of Appeal judge, she was a consultant to the government on legal matters. And the Ministry of Finance raised an issue which came to the fore for the first time in the operation of the Pension Act for parliamentarians, House of Assembly members, where two parliamentarians were, at least two of them were under the age of 55, and the retirement age was 55. And the Ministry of Finance said that, look, they can't get their pension until they're 55. And gratuity is stored up pension. You shouldn't be able to get a gratuity until you're 55. I said, I believe that this law is specific to parliamentarians, and you can't easily make the cross comparison. So let me put it out. Let me ask the judge. Let me ask Monica Joseph. And Monica Joseph said that we had to pay the parliamentarians their gratuity at the time when they demit, at the time when they're no longer parliamentarians, if even they're not 55, but to pay them their pension at 55. I make that as a general legal point in the interpretation. Now, clearly, in practical terms, you make comparisons. So, persons will say, look, you can't get any pension in the public service if you only do 9 years, which you can get in as a parliamentarian. You know what I mean, Lansford?
Yes.
The police, if you do 10 years and leave, you can get a golden handshake. You can cash in after 10 years. You go, a public servant is not given that opportunity, nor indeed a teacher. So each of these things have their own specific parameters. But in the case which I'm talking about, by reform, there is somebody who is paying NIS and who is paying and who's getting a state pension. If a parliamentarian has not been paying NIS, and many of us, I suspect, haven't paid NIS because self-employed, you ain't bother do that, you take out private insurance, which is a mistake. NIS is such an investment, properly advised, you should have have it. Or some others like myself would belong to 3 credit unions, like I belong to the police credit union, I belong to the teachers, and I belong to GECU. Because you have to make all different kinds of arrangements to help to take care of yourself. All of them strictly within the law. But so you may have a question about somebody who served 9 years. But somebody who serves, like me, 32 years, I've served 32 years already. And I will serve, God willing, more than 33 and a third years. But I will not get a portion of my salary as much as a civil servant will get. And I am not grumbling about that because it's a different regime. Different pension regime for public servants and a different one for parliamentarians. But still, I agree with you that you must have some sense of reasonableness so that no group will feel themselves functioning within the state apparatus overly disadvantaged or the situation is not equitable.
Mr. Wick?
Yes, I agree with you, Dr. Gonsalves. I want to comment on the remarks made by the parliamentary representative for South Windward yesterday. And I'm saying on the basis of facts, that guy is a liar. He goes around talking things that may just come to his mind and
absolutely correct.
Seem to want to entertain the average listener.
Yes, that's
he comes across as very, very dumb.
Yeah, it's pure demagoguery.
And somebody needs to talk to him about it.
Demagoguery.
He lied in the parliament yesterday. He gave the impression that the woman you spoke about this morning, a good lady, I believe, who has been disadvantaged in the public service. I know there are rules that say you must have whether 3 or so O-levels and you must have whatever other certificate to get to a certain position. But this is a woman with a lot of skills.
And the issue,
and I believe she is a specialist in her own right.
Absolutely. And the issue that he was raising was not the issue to raise. The issue to be raised is the one which you are raising, that the public service rules and the application of those rules are too narrow. The fact that she doesn't have O levels to give her the minimum entry into the public service doesn't mean that with her specialist skill that she should not be accorded a particular role to deal with persons who have problems connected to blindness. But that's a different problem. That's a different issue than the one which Andrew John was raising yesterday. Andrew John was talking about she not getting her pension. She not getting any gratuity as a non-pensionable person. That's not the issue at all. As I understand it,
but in any case, Dr. Gonsalves, how could she get gratuity when she's still employed?
But
she's currently an employee of the state.
But this is
she's going to leave the employment of the state.
I told Candyman that
she got a transfer. So
that his very statement itself would show that it was just foolishness.
She got a transfer.
And what is I didn't want to. I know Cheryl, and she's so sweet. She and I are friends. I cringed when I hear he using Cheryl's name to make a point, which was not any point based on fact. But I didn't want my dear friend to become a subject of toing and froing in the parliament. So I just remained silent on it.
I totally agree with you.
You know, and say that
something to have done.
And say that today I will explain, because if I got up and challenged him on it there, he's going to say, and then the speaker is going to say, well, he says one thing, you says another, who would know the facts, and then have poor Cheryl. You know what I mean? So I just left that as it was.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I just left that. And that is, and I mean, when I hear the talking, I mean, as you know, I know Cheryl very well. And I always encourage her in all her work. And she should be given and accorded appropriate and special treatment in relation to her skills. I mean, special acknowledgement in relation to her skills.
Dr. Gonsalves, these are skills that there are not many of us in this country have.
Yes.
These are skills that are required by special persons in this country, and I believe the administration, the state should recognize that, and as you say,
that's the point. That's the point that should be made. That's the point that should be made in relation to Cheryl. That's the point.
I want to one more thing before I go, though, so I can leave room for the people to speak with you. I am extremely curious about this one now. Banks in St. Vincent in the Caribbean are giving mortgages, are lending money for homes for as low as under 5%, 4 point something percent per annum.
Absolutely correct. No.
The average standard rate, and this is the maximum, I believe, is 6.25% that the bank could
yes
ask you upfront, and you can negotiate.
Yes. And by the way, when they tell you 6.25, the actual mortgage rate, interest rate, probably be less, but they have a fee up front, which when you put things together, it may work out on an average to 6.25.
Right. So that's why you can negotiate.
Yeah.
Based on your understanding of finance and so, and the loans officer. That's why you can go all the way down in some cases. But we have a development bank that our country is borrowing money from at 5% per annum. What is causing that, Dr. Gonsalves?
No.
Why are we borrowing money for infrastructure at 5% per annum? Do you have an explanation?
Well, one of the other things is this. it's not just that. They're borrowing money for bonds in this interest environment, borrowing on bonds at 7.25%. Lansford, the things don't make any sense. And this is not a case where you have an emergency situation where there is an immediate imperative and you gotta say, well, I gotta bite the bullet. This is a deliberate policy which they set about to see if they could raise $200 million EC in one fiscal year. Having stated that you're doing that while at the same time say you're going to do debt swap because the debt is unsustainable. Who can lend you money so that people put a premium on it? The debt you're talking about is the one I think at in Canawan for 5% on the airport on the money for the airport. That's the one you're thinking about.
Yes.
Well, when I heard the final number when the Minister of Finance mentioned it, it took me a little bit by surprise because I thought it would have been a little lower. But it may well be that the project, the assessment of it, in terms of the returns under the CDB rule, might be such that they're charging a higher number than usual. This is why I was fighting to bring down the size of the project. The size of the project, we borrowing in EC terms $121 point something million. And we are putting in $10 million EC. So it's a $131 million project. We went through everything and we have the design. We went through the CDB and we got, good people designed it, good international firm. But in my view, and well, not just my view, but in the view of informed persons that they designed, who know about these things, is too much. It's overdone. And that we'd be spending too much money on it. We had to spend money on what you may call the revetment. You had to spend money on the protection for the airport because burial damage it. That's a significant amount of money. And then the next big item, but which is not so large comparatively, is to do over the resurfacing. But then there's some elaborate things with the air traffic control and with the fire station, and both of those need to be upgraded, and also the terminal building. But what they've done with those, we could have savings, and we were trying to see if we can get what we could borrow from the CDB come down, get the project scaled down in such a way that they go between 25 million US and 30 million US, and to have an even smaller contribution from us, maybe $5-7 million rather than 10, and to see even if you can do it lower. That was where we were at. But they're driven by the political imperative of doing it with Canawan. Well, we have invested a lot of money in Canawan, the ULP government, far more than the NDP has ever done. But I was making the point that in developing Canawan, the Canawan airport, you have to, in every respect, alter what is happening in the north of Canawan. Pinatar can't stay there. What he's doing is anti-developmental. Nothing going to happen there. So this is essentially going to provide an excellent airport facility for a few people up in the north. And of course, it would add value, great value, to the excellent investment that Dermot Desmond has in the south, in which the government has a small shareholding. You know where the marina is now. So I was tying. It's common sense to tie these things together. But they're proceeding, and when on July the 2nd, when Friday brought the bill in respect of borrowing the $20 million from the OFID. I was disappointed that was 20 rather than 30 because it's very cheap money we had negotiated. But clearly they themselves, if you're talking down your own government, people are going to say they ain't going to lend you as much money as before. They reduced that loan by 1/3. When Friday mentioned about, well, the next loan they're going to, which we had negotiated, they will proceed with it, is the one with Cameron Airport. And they was banging on the table, yes, that's a necessary investment and so on. So, I mean, of course it's a necessary investment. It's a desirable investment. But you had to cut the cloth to suit the size in all the circumstances. There are practical people who are saying that we do what is required on the defenses, the sea defenses and so forth. But even in relation to that of the sea defenses, to cut the extent of the cost by doing some quarrying in a particular area in the north of Canawan and being able to move the stones there rather than the cost which would involve moving them from elsewhere. And then to do slimmer, scale down landside facilities, but do the runway properly. And then you would even get smaller numbers. But they're being driven, just like when I warned them in the budget debate about the dangers of running on the face of it a current account deficit of $103 million, and for it to be financed in a significant way by $200 million from local loans, in the absence of a disaster. You understand what I mean, Lansford? If there is a...
Yes, I understand, and I perfectly agree with that.
If there's an urgency, something overwhelming that you have to choose between DEATH and DEBT, you tell the countries, listen, we have to ban we belly for this because a large number of our citizens are going to be in a precarious position, and we will have to repay this. I suspect, and I'm going to ask questions about this, but I suspect, and I want to say this in advance so they could clean up their act with this, so that they could answer me properly. I suspect that they're under so much financial pressure the way they're managing the thing. They're not putting the money which is required for them to put in to the sinking fund. They're supposed to put a certain amount of money in the sinking fund in order to assure people who buy bonds that they could get their principal monies. Of course, the interest payments will be paid out of the normal recurrent expenditure. But the sinking fund will be put aside under a separate item in order to pay for the principal when the repayment comes in. I don't think they're paying up the sinking fund. And I believe the way these guys are functioning, that they are not putting the full extent of the 1 percentage point of the VAT to the contingency fund, the rainy day fund.
But that's a reasonable assumption to make, Dr. Gonsalves, because if you set out to borrow money for capital projects and you're using it for recurrent revenue,
Absolutely.
or recurrent expenditure, it's like the money that you set out to borrow to build your house, you're using it to buy
Gas.
food and to pay and gas and light bill. That's the position that we are in.
That's the point.
So it's reasonable to assume that they will not be setting aside the money to
For the sinking fund and the
Dr. Gonsalves,
contingency
this
fund.
country has managed so many emergencies over the last 5-6 years. Serious emergencies. And we end up in a position where many other countries are with respect to our debt to GDP ratio. And rather than taking on the opportunity to expand our GDP, to ensure that there's production taking place in the country, so that we can earn more, we can save more, we can pay more of our debt.
Expand the denominator, so you calculate it.
Simple arithmetic. Simple arithmetic. Even before you came to government, you were there back talking the potential investors, practically chasing them away.
Yeah.
And now you're borrowing at 5%.
And once it was being built, you put up billboards to frighten the tourists not to come.
Exactly. And I often say, if persons opposing the NDP wanted to be wicked, as they are to St. Vincent, rather than a billboard that shows the number, you can put up a billboard now that count the number of homicides that are taken in the country. I'm not advocating for that.
I know you're not.
I'm saying that's if you want to be wicked like them, that's what you would be doing at this point in time. But most of us understand.
Yeah, but we're patriotic.
Crime,
we don't.
Yes, and crime is not based on which parties in government and who is prime ministers. It's much more complex
Clearly
than that.
Yeah.
And we all have to contribute in one way or the other, especially over the medium to long term, in how we raise our children and all of that
absolutely
to the reduction in crime. I feel bad for the parents and the children at this time who are exiting schools, the community college, for instance, because prior to this year, persons were almost guaranteed that they are going off to university. I am waiting with a bated breath.
they took it for granted.
Well, I don't think they took it for granted, Dr. Gonsalves. They were very appreciative of it.
Yeah, but
And when
it comes so easy, they say it's like as natural as the air you breathe. It's permanent. Yes. It's permanent and it's irreversible.
You're correct. You're correct.
But now,
we
know it's reversible.
Go ahead.
We know it's reversible.
No. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
But
thank you.
We are borrowing at 5% from a development bank, and we are going to establish
the Caribbean Development Bank.
I assume that we will have to borrow money, so I don't know what rate we're going to lend at.
Well,
thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, that's another interesting.
Lanson is always very thoughtful.
He's always
always
on
very
the ball.
thoughtful.
A comment came in. Somebody was asking whatever happened to, I think it was Fitz. What happened to the national health insurance that the NDP campaigned on?
Well, I haven't heard anything about that since, because remember I told them that in order to to put on. When they were talking for us about 1% and 2%, I said, but you're not going to move the needle with public expenditure on health, which is 100 million recurrent. I say, all you'll be doing is taxing the people to get the same thing. Because the menu of products you wouldn't be able to extend it with what 1 or 2% can add.
Just a second, we got a caller. Hello?
Good afternoon, Comrade.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Yes, I've been listening to you guys for a while. I just have a quick question pertaining to like pension and so on for auxiliaries across the board. Because I'm working at an institution where they say auxiliaries are not pensionable. You only entitled for the from NIS or whatever the case may be.
Yes.
So I don't know if Comrade could shed.
Auxiliaries are not pensionable. They're entitled to the compassionate gratuity, which they've always been getting, and they'll be and for the NIS. My own view is that in the reform for the pensions, as I say, to rather than have one set of workers ending up with up to 116% of their salary, that it is better that you have everybody involved getting, in addition to the NIS pension, a top-up, and a top-up which will take their total the total pension in the range of about 80% of what their salary is.
Okay.
You see what I mean? But there's a discussion yesterday. I wanted us to reform the NIS first. And I said we're doing that, and then we're going to do the pension reforms in the public service. Such a formula would not affect existing pensionable public servants, because you can't touch that, because that is constitutionally protected. But for those who come on fresh, you could have an arrangement which would make for a greater solidarity between all categories of employees in the government.
All right, caller.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Please.
Any further questions?
I just want to say to the Comrade to keep up his good works, because, I mean, has it not been that the people of North Central would have re-elected him? I don't know what have been the state of this country today.
I know.
That's the honest truth. And I always shout the Comrade the number sometimes at a distance and shout up the Comrade.
I appreciate.
Because even at my workplace, I just do my campaigning, you know. So
yeah.
I support the Comrade.
When I tell them,
Comrade, thank you.
When I said yesterday in the crosstalk, I said that's why people say one more than 14. They say, well, one could be more than 14. I say, I'm talking quality now. I'm not talking number.
Quality.
And then
We got another call.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, I want to say a little bit the pension and everything. In Chester Cottage, right? There are some houses that have been reconstructed.
Yes.
And it's been a while now that the owners of the house are waiting. And I know if you were there, those houses would have finished and the people would be moving.
Long time.
Yeah. Right? I would like to know, because some of the houses are finished, everything is on. There are minor stuff to be done in the house. What is keeping the owner of the house from moving into the property?
A lot bad-mindedness from the people in the government. That's all I could put it down to. I know in one case, for instance, it's just the permission to hook up the electricity. And they're not giving the permission to hook up the electricity. Could you imagine that?
The people then move back into their house?
But
who is responsible?
If I were in their situation and I have a house which is built for me, I move in it. And come take me out now. You see what I mean?
Because my sister got one the house, right? And she's a sickly woman.
Yes.
And there was a house there, but you rebuilt it for them.
Yes.
You know, completely, which is, I must commend you.
Thanks.
On that. But the people them should be able to move back into their house.
Clearly.
And be comfortable, even though there are stuff to be done still, which I believe will not be done.
And while this is happening, the Minister of Housing just talking a lot of damn foolishness in the Parliament and elsewhere. A lot of rubbish, frankly.
Something need to be done about this. Yes. And
I appreciate.
So, Comrade, what would you recommend for the owners of the house?
What I would want to do, I should let it come by me. Not up by the community center where other people going to come in and listen. I could organize a session with those persons and talk, because some cases would be clear cut, some not so clear cut.
Okay.
And then there's the issue of the land which I buy from Jones.
Right, because
the names which are allocated, they're going to take in away other people's name. A man who is not elected is taking off a people's name. I'm talking about Neptune.
I could tell you personally, one of my friends get a piece of the land and she tell me when she go pay, they tell she pick up on the land.
Yes.
So me not talk from with somebody, say from with some, I'm talking from one of the person who was elected. They have been told that they cannot pay the money. There have been
you must let her get in touch with me.
Something they are investigating or something.
Let her get in touch with me. You see, people don't understand. If they just don't.
Thank you, Comrade.
The persons I go talk this off here. Candyman, what happens is this. Chester Cottage is a place not with a lot of land. And it is one of the areas which was badly affected by burial because of its elevation. People think it's just Union Island and so on, and going up to Beckway and Union Island, Myro, one. They are elevated, a few elevated places, like in Glen too, one or two places. And I know that the Jones family had lands which they want to do certain things with. And I was looking at some lands for Tom Campbell on the side coming down from Chester Cottage going towards Mount Young. I personally went there with the chief surveyor, went in the back, right in the road, look at it, and I asked people to examine the land and everything, and it finally determined that after a little while they gave the report to me that it would be better if we didn't buy those, because we'd have to put too much infrastructure in to see if we could get the lands from
Jones.
From Jones. I personally spoke to them. I had to pay good price for the land out Chester Cottage. $8 a square foot. I had to agree. There's no way that government sells land. I'm talking to poor people now at $8 a square foot. No way. In fact, there are some cases we have sold lands for $2 and $3 a square foot to people. And I hear the new government is telling them that we sell the land too cheap, therefore pay higher, they have to pay more. But you can't change the price after that people agree on it. But I just want, you see, a number of persons are in this twilight zone. They don't want to come and bring legal action against them, because they still have the hope that they will get it. But some of these, the way the government is behaving, you can't trust them to give you your land to which you are properly allocated. So you have to fight them. And the only way we can fight them in a democracy, in a free society, is politically and legally. And I'm prepared to help with both.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring your attention to, I don't know if you had known about it, but I see we have a call, so let's go to the call first. All right. Caller, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Candyman. Good afternoon, TM. How are you?
I'm all right, brethren.
Very interesting discussion this morning on what took place in the House. PM, I don't know, maybe in another program, you could probably go into more detail regarding the impact on statutory bodies, read that pension bill that came to the House yesterday and how it could be addressed.
The compassionate gratuity, not pension.
Yes.
Compassionate gratuity.
Compassionate, yes.
Compassionate
The other
gratuity.
thing, tomorrow there's a ceremony at AIA, Argyle International Airport, where the government will be paying Inter-Caribbean $50,000
Complete waste
for
of
the
money.
painting
Complete waste of money. A sign on the tail of the plane. Complete waste of money.
Yes.
That's like taking the 135,000 EC dollars and throw it in sea water. That's just pretending that you're doing something. You're putting it on the tail of Inter-Caribbean.
Yes, that is the feedback I'm getting from many presidents.
Where would somebody please tell me that you'd have Inter-Caribbean ain't going worldwide?
Where is it going? Below the tail?
On top of the tail, I believe.
Can the man behave yourself?
It gotta be below the tail.
But the point is this: it travels through the region.
Yeah.
Only, yes.
Will somebody please tell me what that will do as the plane travels through the region? Somebody to encourage regional people to come to St. Vincent? That will encourage regional people to come to St. Vincent?
Why Inter-Caribbean?
No, but even that particular advertising tool for $50,000 US dollars, 135,000 EC dollars, is foolishness. And there's no way.
When you sit in the airport in Barbados, right? If you're at the gates in Barbados, where Inter-Caribbean pulls up at gate 9, the international travelers, they don't see that far down there. They will not see it.
Yes. You're very correct, Candy. You're very, very correct.
Man, on every index, on every indicator, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And first of all, they were doing this thing by stealth until I talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So they know it's happening, so they say, well, okay, then nevertheless go and do a ceremony. But the ceremony only will make them look stupid. Why don't they take the $135,000 and fix the door on the land side, on the air side of AIA? The two doors.
That could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Why they don't do that?
Yeah.
That would have more visitors coming because they will see that they're keeping the place up to standard.
At least have an impact on visitor experience.
I mean, the thing is, it's just plain foolishness. I don't know why going through shallow head with that.
Well, they have the advisors. And one last thing, PM.
Listen,
we are still in the hurricane season.
Let me just say this. They're cheap alternative modes of advertisement. Even putting something on your website, there are more people who will be watching it. You know what I mean, Candyman? Have something pop up.
Well, at $135,000, we could get the top 10 influencers, bloggers, etc., in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to do different things, do a major campaign, and reach a lot more people. Because between them, they got a few million followers. They reach a lot more people, and pay them $13,000 each.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing, Pia. We still in
yeah, sorry, you're saying, brethren, about
we're still in the hurricane season, and I have been thinking, are the government putting together monies aside in the event of an emergency like your government did during your tenure in office?
Well, the point is this. We need to have, I've outlined already to everybody, that you need to have at hand minimum $120 million where you can reach to in order to get a kickoff when a disaster hits, that you can keep the trains running. That's not the money. For instance, Beryl was about $1 billion in loss and damage. $1 billion EC dollars. But you need some money up front, because when you have a disaster, some people go send you food, some people send you water, and so on. But there's cash is needed to clear places, to begin to do some emergency things.
Immediate mobilization money.
Immediate things, and shelters and all kind of various things. No. We set up the contingency fund. They opposed it. And they say that they didn't want the 1%. I told the people, for a rainy day, the women in the household, Candyman, will put a little something in the handkerchief and tie it. I'll put it in the trunk with the camphor ball.
You call fell out.
Yeah. So we set up something comparable and we put a 1% on the VAT.
Yeah. You were opposed on that?
They opposed me on it. I said at any one time, we have about $50 million there. $50-60 million. Naturally, when you have a disaster, you draw down, but in between, you build it back up, provided you pay the money inside. Remember, I just raised the question with Lansford that I don't know if they're paying the money inside, the 1%, or whether they're spending it because they can't. The thing ain't turning over good for them. So that's one pot of money. We negotiate a $20 million cat DDO with the World Bank and leave it there. Don't pull it US. So it's $54 million. So between those two, we are at 100 million or slightly more than 100. We will get a $5 million in loan from the CDB as an emergency loan. So but you wouldn't get that up front. You will get that only after you
use up the money.
After you spend the money, they reimburse you. So money is fungible. You put it somewhere else because you're going to get it back. You get, immediately you will get some money from the CRIF, which we increase the Caribbean Regional Insurance Fund. So you get something from that, $3-4 million, depending on the nature of the disaster. You can always rely on Taiwan immediately to give you maybe $1 million US. Other countries may put together maybe $5 million. Who give you some money, So you see, but you have to start with it with two core bases, like for instance the CAT DDO, the contingency fund. Then you get a piece from the Caribbean Development Bank and so on. I don't know what the fellas are doing, because they haven't said. I put this out all the time, and I'm doing it on the basis of experience and common sense and curiosity and some view of how you have to be walking in step with this natural disaster. And as soon as, and before natural disasters come, you have to be locked in with governments all over the world. These fellas are attending meetings for photo ops and come back and talk a lot of general foolishness without dealing with money. You hear I'm telling you, Candyman?
We got another call on the line here. Let's try to take this one. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, good afternoon, Candyman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, PM.
Good afternoon, my brother.
As PM just mentioned about the door at AIA. Incidentally, a friend of mine called me about 2 months ago. He's a Trinidadian and he married to a Vincentian. She come to St. Vincent a few times a year. And he called me and said, Jeff, don't you know anybody in the government you could call to ask them to fix that door at AIA? Because it's dragging and it needs to be done. Otherwise, I might ask you to go down and fix it for them. So that's a good point you just bring up there. Instead of spending that money on the pain, they can fix the door. Because it seems like it's been a problem for quite some time.
Well, there are 2 doors there. There are 2 doors there.
2 doors.
We had
he did call me about it.
We had fixed. We had during my
I said, well, I don't know anybody in this administration now I could call.
We had fixed the one
said, well,
the
I guess you might have to go and fix it for them.
That's one is on the air side.
Yeah. Another question, if possible. Have you heard anything about Chatham Bay, or did you mention anything about Chatham Bay earlier?
Nothing.
Unless I missed it.
Nothing.
If it was sold.
Nothing has been registered yet.
I will listen off here.
All right.
Okay.
The other thing at the airport, Candyman. All of them so anxious to get rid of Eloise out of the airport. I'm talking with the
restaurant.
The restaurant. I understand, and I could be corrected, that after they do go through their tender and other people go out there and visit, there's only one visitor, only one entity apparently interested in getting to doing something by the bar and one of the outlets upstairs. That's the police welfare. And somebody downstairs, you can't cook food downstairs, so people would have to cook the food home and bring it. I understand somebody going get that. I'm talking about the one by the, which is not very profitable. The one
at the
departure.
Just to check it.
Check
you lose. Departure? Just to check in is
you lose on that big time. But the Eloise had said to them, Eloise.
So who's upstairs there now?
Eloise manager. Eloise manager had said to them, listen, you want to have a new person. That asked them to send in an application to be considered again because they want to renew everything. Eloise manager told them, on the basis of the instructions that Eloise gave, that they're not interested in making any application to continue. But they'd be responsible in working with anybody who want to do the transition. Mm-hmm. Remember this: all the fixtures there, all the equipment, the counters, everything is.
It belonged to her.
Equipment, everything belonged to her. God, there was just space where you had to. That's how it was built. That who comes there has to do these things. She put a lot of sunken capital in it, and she make back she money because of Liat. Liat wasn't there. Liat fell apart, which was bringing a lot of regional passengers. Then, early days, Sandals wasn't open yet, COVID, volcanic eruption, burial, all of these things. Now, She said, it's fine. I'll go with. They wrote and told them, we'd like to leave the end of July. The airport got in touch with them and said, no.
You can't leave.
We need you to stay at least till the end of August. I don't know if it's going to be extended beyond August, but
this is so comical.
They want to leave. They want to leave. You want us to leave? We'll leave. There's no problem. That's what they tell them.
When was it that they got the notification that they wanted them to leave? What month was it?
Earlier this year.
Yeah,
it might have been
February or
January,
March.
February.
Yeah, somewhere there. January, February. So end of July, they're still begging them to stay a little longer.
No, they
didn't think this through before.
The point about it is this: you can't have the airport without.
Obviously, these services are
of a restaurant, of a restaurant, and of a particular standard.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, surely you'd have thought this through.
Well, I don't know what is happening there with the board, but what I could talk about what I know about. I can't talk about what I don't know, so I'm not going to speculate on the part that you asked me. But the persons, there are people who, the opportunists who came back from overseas and writing, and the radio things and all the thing is a pot of gold out there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And somehow Ralph family, they realized that at the beginning, the IADC, which was preparing everything towards the AIA, for AIA operation when it opened in February 2017. Candyman, is 5-6 rounds they went with people asking, until they came pleading to her and said, listen, could you do this? Of course, she had a restaurant before, she still has it, and there was another outlet where an establishment had asked her to establish something. She subsequently gave it up, that other one. And so that Cafe Sula was cross-subsidizing the place. But because
we got 6 minutes before 2.
Because her husband spent so much time with this airport, she couldn't feel that she could leave the place. So, and she invested a lot of money. No.
Why are we on the topic of the airport? I just find it so comical that the irony of the situation. Whenever we'd have new airlines come in, international airlines, Virgin, JetBlue, whatever. They have the water salute.
Yes.
And we would post them, there'd be news articles, we'd celebrate, we'd have ceremonies to welcome the crew and so on. And, those NDP people, they used to say, y'all new common, you look at what you're celebrating, you never see a plane.
But that's what happens on every plane. They're having a ceremony
now for an inter-Caribbean tail.
Yeah.
A ceremony.
Yeah. Let me just say this. Since I'm talking about this thing, let me get it off my chest. The airlines would ask the high flyers, the restaurant out there, to prepare food. I don't know whether it's for their staff or whether it's when the plane is late or whatever. Two of the airlines, I understand, deal with them directly. But the other airlines go through AIA, so AIA will have them provide for the it's a ton load of money they owe them, I don't know if the airline has paid. AIA.
But AIA hasn't paid high flyers.
I had to start losing my tongue because you get beaten up on, your family get beaten up on, and you keep a certain restraint.
You're taking the high road.
I don't involve myself ever with that business. I'm now no longer in government. So naturally, they will ask me because they ask me, I say, no, I don't involve myself. I keep an arm's length. But they now tell me things which the manager tells me things which I never knew about. And there are a lot of money they owe.
Now, how likely do you think?
And while the thing was that she owes so much months back rent and so on and so forth.
Is there any truth to that?
None. When they turn up, well, that's one of the things they turn up to find out. You think if she owe back rent, you would not don't hear about it? Yeah?
But the flip is true. The opposite is true, that they owe her. What's the ballpark we're talking about here?
I don't really want to talk about that ballpark.
That was a nice try, right?
Because
I know you're not going to say that.
It's not my.
I know you wouldn't say that.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
It's not for me, and I know that. But the way they treated them, they could have said, well, okay, you're getting somebody, we gone. But I advise them to the extent that they listen to me. I'm talking about manager and Eloise. We cannot leave the airport without a restaurant. Even if you're treated shabbily. Mm-hmm. Look, when you go there, I just took a grandson of mine just came in. When I went to see him, you know, I took him Candyman. I took him for a picture in front of, you know the.
Which grandson is that? Hugo.
You know the where it's not a plaque. It's the structure which was built.
Mm-hmm.
Argyle International Airport officially opened on the 14th of February 2017 by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Dr. the Honorable Ralph E. Gonsalves. You can take down my picture. You want to knock that down? You could go and knock that down too. But it's inside the people's head. It's part of the history. You can't take that away. And because of the investment of my time and my energy and my creativity in building Argyle International Airport, I want to see it succeed. And it pains me to see what the NDP is doing to it. Pains me. And that is the last thing I say before I leave today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gonsalves, and thanks to all our listeners. The doc is wrapping up. We'll be back with you on a Monday morning, same time.
Okay.